In a world drowned in lies, where corruption and evil reign, this summer, the fight for truth continues. The Red Pill Project, Alpha Warrior, DEFCON ZERQ.
Another head hangs slowly, child is slowly taken. The violence causes silence. Who are we taking? Their tanks and their bombs and their guns and their guns. Your head, they're crying. Your head. This is extremely dangerous to our democracy. What's in your head?
Our movement is about replacing a failed and corrupt political establishment with a new government controlled by you, the American people. There is nothing the political establishment will not do.
DEFCON ZERQ.
Always gets me pumped up. The StreamYard was going a little nuts on me there. I don't know if you guys
I know.
were
And it's like, what did Elvin do?
to catch that. I'm just like, I only clicked one button. Folks, we're live. Of course, it's October 7th, 2025. Got a special guest backstage that's just as excited as we are to get this show kicked off. Before we get it kicked off, Josh, any words you want to say? And then we'll get these awesome ads from our partners and sponsorships done, and then we'll get into it.
Yeah, well, listen, it's happening, guys. I mean, if you've been paying attention, it's happening. Now, one of the other things is, we're doing Q after hours now, just an FYI. Just keep your eye on that one, because it's right now, we'll see how it goes. But if you watched it the other night, you can understand that the comms are heavy right now. And so we're going to talk a lot about this with one of our guests here tonight. So this is going to be fun.
Absolutely. And just so you guys know, Q After Hours will be Sunday nights. It'll be midnight Eastern. That's what's after hours, folks. And we got an awesome third co-host that's a part of that. You want to know who that is? You better show up Sunday and find out. You won't be disappointed. So with that, let's get to the awesome people that help us keep the lights on. And here goes with number one.
Science proves that a healthy immune system is the body's first defense against the smallest of ailments to the most catastrophic. Coriolus versicolor is the most sought-after, all-natural supplement for both humans and pets to help boost the immune system. There are over 400 studies worldwide on its effectiveness in humans, including Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, MD Anderson Cancer Center, and now from the University of Pennsylvania School of Veterinary Medicine. Together, we can help reverse this terrible tide now plaguing your loved ones and give them the immune-boosting supplements that they need.
What is the Sovereign Alliance? The Sovereign Alliance are a collection of leaders and countries that are aligned not in the vision for their countries, but against a vision that has been thrust upon them. I believe that the Sovereign Alliance is less a battle for something and more a battle against something. They are against globalism, collectivism. They are against the rules-based international order.
Sovereign Alliance, the latest addition to Badlands Rise merch, available now at badlandsmedia.tv/rise.
They are so good. at their ads, man, it makes me feel like it makes me feel like we're watching a movie trailer. Speaking of things, right?
Reach out to him and have him do our ads.
come help us out. You see, we're over here, like a monkey playing with a football. Clean that one up. All right, folks. I know you guys love DEFCON ZERQ. I know you guys love hearing myself and Josh, but we know who you guys are really excited about tonight. So let me get our next guest up on the screen.
Oh, is that And We Know? Is that LT from And We Know?
All right, what's up, guys? Great to be here.
What's up, man? Heck yeah, loving it.
Great, yeah, love your show. I'm always jumping in, making comments, and I love it when we all catch on to what's been happening behind the scenes. It's been a whirlwind for many, many years now to get to the point where we are today, and a lot of craziness going on. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Here's one of the things that I want to ask real quick, and then we can get into some of the the questions that a lot of the audience has. But one question I have for you specifically, LT, what do you think is one of the most important things that our truth community needs to be focusing on right now that we're not?
Oh man, where do you get these questions from? Where did that come
Chat
from?
GPT.
Yeah, Chat GPT, definitely.
Oh my goodness! All right, from Marine Corps. Here we go. It's funny. The interesting thing. I mean, the first thing I think of always go to my mind, and when questions are asked, is what distractions are out there to keep us from knowing what's going on behind the scenes. And I kind of thought I caught onto one yesterday, where again they were bringing up behind the scenes what these folks were doing in the FBI and Obama and what have you, and spying on this campaign and all the issues with the congressmen knowing what's happening to them. And I'm like, man, we got all these things that they're talking about. Then this tiny little camera in the back room somewhere videotaping these guys that are telling us what they're up to. And Johnson comes out and says something. And wait a minute, didn't Johnson pop up 5 years ago on the exact day that they're standing with the small camera on? And so I always wonder sometimes, are we not catching on to some of the distractions that make us go, what's going on behind the scenes? Number one. Number two, the attacks that are coming at us, especially in the past couple of months, have been, I don't know, I would say magnificent in a way. Like they're super strong. And I'm watching several people now, many people in the chat room, especially, where they're getting tired and they're wore out and they're beat down, and they say, man, this is it. I'm done with this. It's time to move on. We got to get these arrests happening now. And, folks have been saying it before. We've been saying it for a long time, right? We've all said, this is it. We want justice. Let's go. Let's make it happen. Now, even more so, I'm starting to feel it. I'm starting to sense it more myself. And it seems like we get to a point where, yes, we look at the comms, yes, we look at the Q drops, and we understand how they're working somewhat. But at the same time, people are thinking that we're providing false hope now, and there's a lot of folks falling off, and they're saying, I've had enough of this. And it's hard, in my opinion, it's hard to keep everyone focused when you're trying to explain to them over and over and over again to people, hey, just because you've had this information for so many years doesn't mean everybody around you does, right? And so everybody has a part in this wake up, I believe, that is happening around us. It's not just the podcasters out trying to give out the information. I'll use a preaching term kind of a way. Pastor asked me one time, never forget. He says, what do you think's the most important thing that a sheep is responsible for? What does sheep do, right? We're referred to as sheep throughout the Bible. Okay. And sheep aren't the greatest animals. Like, hey, I don't really want to be a sheep. They walk funny and they talk funny. I'd rather be a beautiful horse with the mane, right? Just galloping through, and my wife looks at me like, look at that amazing horse that I've got for her husband. No, that's not the way she looks at me. She's still, I look like a sheep to her. Short, bald-headed guy, especially. So, we go through life thinking that we know it all, and yet we're still called sheep by a savior. Well, when I was given the answer, it was something I didn't think of. Most people think it's to make wool. No, the number one thing that a sheep is responsible for is making more sheep. Why? because if you make more sheep, you get more product, right? And so the shepherd's not walking around kicking the sheep around saying, hey, you better hurry up and wake up. Let's go. You guys need to go out and do what you're supposed to do. No, the sheep are supposed to be gathered together, and then they go out and they take the information they have and they share it with their neighbors and other folks, and they make more sheep, in a sense. I'm using that as a kind of a way. I know we on the keyboard, it says sheep no more, but we're still sheep. And so sheep are dumb animals. A lot of folks have taken care of them. You know, if one goes off a cliff, 10 more will follow them. They just do it. And so when I think of the responsibility that we have, especially as in a podcast environment where we're teachers, in a sense, we're almost like preachers, if you want to go that way. We have a huge responsibility in gathering information, giving it to the people, and we're responsible for that information. So when it hits the earwaves and those folks take it, they're going to take that information, and a lot of them are going to say, well, that must be the truth, therefore I'm going to go talk to my neighbors about it. We have a huge responsibility, I get it, but also the responsibility of the people to do the work of going out and sharing with others so that they are, in a sense, waking up, right? And so we all have a responsibility. I tell people all the time, hey, how do you do your podcast? How does it work? This, that, and the other. I wouldn't have a podcast hadn't not been for everybody out there doing the research. And then we simply take all that information. We use the gifts we've gotten, for many years, and we put it together in a package and we hand it out to people so they understand the way the decodes are working. This is what somebody saw. Here's where somebody thinks that this is leading. And then, oh, by the way, isn't it amazing how it matches up again? And oh, by the way, did you guys miss this in the news yesterday? This is what happened. That's our responsibility. We grab the information that everybody works together on, like you guys. And so I use your stuff all the time, especially Josh Reid. I use your stuff all the time because you're spot on. And I get the information. I was like, oh, man, that's good. How could I not use that? Number one, I have the responsibility of making sure that folks know who that information gets out right. Number two, that Josh Reid is the one who actually found that information. I think that's very important. There's a lot of people that work really hard out there to get this stuff put out so that we can have it, and then we can then post it and provide it to we the people, right? Huge responsibility. Third thing, we're in the midst of a war. It's a long, drawn-out war. Yes, we're tired and weary, but I'll never forget there was a guy standing at a Trump rally. I believe it was in 2015, 16 at the time. President Trump's running for office. And he said, man, I love President Trump, love these rallies. This is absolutely amazing. He said, sir, you served in World War II? And he said, yes, I was in France for 4 years. He said, we never had a day off. And he says, when you're in battle, you don't take time off. When I heard that, I realized there's no way at all that we can take time off. Since September 2018, when we started this And We Know podcast, strange thing of getting it started, it's what we're responsible for getting information. I didn't realize the weight of it. I didn't realize how much it was going to grow to the point where we are today. And the number one thing that we need to provide folks is what? At the end of the day, no matter what's going on, we have to have hope that we're going to be able to move forward for the next day. And we have to live without fear. A lot of folks live in fear. And that's what the enemy does all the time, is constantly push fear. That's all they do. Discouragement, fear, all the time. And it gets old. And we see it happen on the battlefield every single day. People are living in fear. There are people out there right now that are responsible for nations who do nothing but push fear into our brains day in and day out. I think they're getting exposed now.
I agree.
Yeah, I think many people are on to these charades that we're told, hey, number one, climate change. Oh, you have to be scared because the water is going to, we're done with that one. Folks have woken up. The second thing is the politicians. How do we know that folks are waking up? I'll give you a quick example. Last week or 2 weeks ago, we had the Ryder Cup golf tournament. I'm a lover of golf. I absolutely adore it. I would, if I could live on a golf course, I would. These guys went out to battle. The Americans got their butt handed to them for the first 2 days. I get it. And then they came back swinging the last day. But what was really interesting was when they got up to give the speeches the day before the Ryder Cup started, what happened? 2 people got up there and thanked Governor Hochul for her great job that she did to put this tournament together. And what did she get? The entire place booed. They didn't just boo. They screamed their boos. They didn't just scream their boos. They made sure that she heard it, and they booed for a long time so that the people giving their speech, like Keegan Bradley, couldn't continue to talk. That tells me, guess what? The podcasters like yourselves, myself, and others out there have finally gotten to We the People, and We the People are going, you know what? We've had enough of these games. We know who you guys are. If they would have had the Ryder Cup 10 years ago in New York, 10 years ago, and they would have thanked Governor Hochul if she was in charge for her great job, everybody would have clapped.
Yep.
Are you following me? And
Yeah.
I know I'm answering this in a long way from your question, you know, what's the most important thing that we should focus on? To me, it's the message getting out to folks to make sure you don't live in fear. We have a job to do. We have a job to make more sheep, to make sure that we're all going in the right direction and not jumping off cliffs and giving up just because things get hard.
No, and I love the fact that you took time to answer that, because that's the reason that's the first question I wanted to ask you, because I want to learn. I want the audience to learn. And, you know, I can always reference things to my anecdotal experience, you know, life as a detective. But before you're a detective, you know, you're a patrol cop. You push a black and white, you know, you're doing the hard stuff. And I would remember, you know, the years of doing patrol, and the detectives would come in, they give us these, you know, go get this area and look for this information. And you don't have the big picture. You're just tasked with something with limited info, but you got to do it. And it's like this all the time. And you never really see the end result of it until, you know, months later, if not even longer than that. There's an operation that comes through, and you're like, oh, this is why we're doing all that stuff. And then eventually in time, I got to the other side where I was in the bureau, and then I was the one that was going and tasking. And then you realize why there's only so much information you can give out at a time. But I did realize that, and this is what I started thinking about when you were giving us this answer that was really important to me. The motivation that we had in patrol, when we finally saw what the purpose of all something was for, we were reinvigorated, and we worked harder, and we looked for things harder. And when I look at what we're at here in this war, you know, we say information warfare all the time, irregular warfare, and I hope that people grasp what we mean when we're saying war, because I would, and this is, like I said, this is just my opinion, but I would think, especially at the phase that we seem to be in right now, that we're probably going to get a very large vindication that's going to reinvigorate people. Maybe people that have kind of turned away and lost that hope, like you're talking about, LT, or some that are hanging on by a thread. And if that does happen, I think we see a huge shift in motivation within the community.
It's a revival. And, you know, before any golden age, you have to have a time period of revival, right? The Great Awakening. And that's what we are in right now. And, you know, I've talked about this at length, that, I mean, a lot of what LT was saying is it's the experience that we've all had over the last decade. You know, I talk about how technology actually changed. If we look at 2010, something significant actually happened in technology. We had cloud and computing infrastructure that was built out around the world. This is actually what brought us the internet. This is what's allowing us to use Rumble right now and stream on devices all over the world, is a cloud and computing infrastructure that came about. Well, at that point in time, you had a complete transition in the way people began to take in information. And I think that this is critically important, because when you're talking about a battlefield, we live in a multi-domain battlefield, whether it's air, sea, land, space, or cyber. There's one key domain that encompasses them all: information. And, you know, I call it the blockbuster effect. If you remember Blockbuster Video, you know, they had the option to sell out to Netflix for $200 million, and they didn't take it. Instead, they started trying to charge $29 for a digital download, and they ended up basically going out of business. Well, the news media, the mainstream news media, they didn't adapt to social media. They didn't adapt to short form memes and text posts and all of these things, the 3-minute content. They couldn't adapt fast enough. And that's where we bring in, you know, General Flynn, who comes out and says, you know, digital soldiers, we have to redefine the idea of information. And at the same time, you have Donald Trump hammering fake news, fake news, fake news, fake news. And people began to wake up slowly, but surely started to wake up. And then you enter in October 28th, 2017, and the birth of Q. And what was it? It was a psychological warfare operation targeted towards patriots, Christians, conspiracy theorists, that merged all of those groups together. And its whole purpose was to take back the idea of information, show people the little crumbs of where they can follow and they can start uncovering big things, get out there on social media and start propagating it out, show others. And then we were censored. The moment we were censored, what did we do? We were so grand in our numbers, we found solutions. That's how Rumble was born. We found the solution, and we continued to propagate. And what did that do? It allowed us to overtake the narrative. It allowed us to overtake the mainstream media.
Yeah, that's right.
Right? And to where we are here today. That right now, we are the media. We are in control of the media. The mainstream media is nothing anymore. And, you know, this is the revival period. And people are saying, like you said, and LT, that we're the arrest. It goes. I don't like Bill Barr too much, but it goes back to a Bill Barr quote: "Is that these things take time, you know, and that we have to understand that the 4 years of Joe Biden allowed the Biden administration to come in and absolutely decimate all the evidence. But as I believe, there was a SAP program operating to basically keep and take all this information and preserve it. And they are handing that down to Tulsi Gabbard, but they're doing it in a very specific way. And what they're doing is they're matching timestamps on the cue boards with the information. Like for people out there that are looking at this, today's October 7th.
Oh, yeah.
You just had the director of the CIA, Ratcliffe, come out there and declassify the Ukraine Joe Biden report, where Ukraine basically was not liking the quid pro quo Joe.
Yeah.
And they declassified it today. Well, interesting enough, post 4822 on the boards, October 7th, 2020. What happens if Biden became POTUS, knowing he, through Hunter +1, took massive amounts of bribes to change, look the other way, U.S. policy towards Ukraine in favor of Ukraine? Would Ukraine own and control the White House? That's mathematically impossible. Not only that, does anybody know that today is a hunter's moon? I mean, just that is mind-blowing. But that is military precision at its finest.
Yeah, that's really good. You're fired up, Josh. I like this. You know, me of when I had Cash Patel, I had one interview with him. He didn't know who I was. It was put together by some guy who was trying to get his name known, and he's like, "I've got a connection." Blah blah blah. Cash gets on there, and I'll never forget. He goes, "Hey, how's it going?" And I said, "Yeah." Do you realize? Do you know what we're going to be talking about today? He goes, "No." And first thing he says is, "Hey, I need to hurry up. We got about 15 minutes. I got to get moving." And I said, "Oh, one of those." And so I had a good time because I realized, I'm going to fire this guy up. We're going to fire this guy up. So I said, it's kind of interesting there, Cash. If you guys watched the interview, it was years ago. Doesn't look like anything's going to happen. It looks like you're all talk. That's what I did to him. He got fired up for like 15 minutes straight. He was just like, he was pointing his finger, yelling at the screen and everything. And I said, "Hey, it's really good to see you fired up." And when we were done, he goes, "Hey, that was a great interview. If you ever want me back on, let me know." Yeah, because we're we want to see these guys on fire, and we're tired. I mean, I was watching clips from Pam Bondi today, and she just was letting them have it one after another. Finally, like, we're sitting there in her seat for years. We've been sitting there in her seat going, "Somebody stop him. Call him a liar. What does he think he's doing?" And we're the ones screaming at the TV, "I can't watch this anymore," and we turn it off. Now we're looking forward to these congressional hearings because we know they're going to fight back, and it's about time. They don't let them speak over their microphone. They actually speak over these guys. And so we have a fight, and we love it. And these folks that think they can censor them, they can't do it anymore on C-SPAN, right? They let them talk back and forth because it used to be, in my opinion, it used to be a show. It used to be, oh, let's make sure that Trey Gowdy screams and yells at Hillary Clinton, and oh, wow, he's really going to do something because he screams and yells at her. And we find out that he was a lawyer for the Clinton Foundation back in the day. Oh, see? So a lot of folks don't like to hear that because he seems like a nice guy. Sure does. They all do. They all do. You brought something up, Josh. He said a word that I use a lot, and I bring it up quite a bit: revival. A lot of folks were praying, especially in the church community. Oh, we pray for revival, and we hope to see a lot of people come to know Christ as their Savior. This, that, and the other. And I have seen more of a real revival in the hearts of people across our nation, across this earth, actually, in the past, I'd say 6-7 years than I've ever seen in my entire life. They thought it was going to be in the confines of 4 walls, 5 walls, whatever, how many walls you have in your church, and a building with a cross at the top and some guy in a nice suit that talks for 45 minutes. They thought that's what was going to happen. That's not what happened. I believe that we had revival happen, and the truth started going out. The truth was bathed in my opinion, a lot of scripture. And when you look at the cue board, it's filled with Bible verses, not other verses from other religions. They're dealing with one, and they keep posting those over and over again. That's what got fired me up about the whole board in the first place. And at the same time, I thought, man, is anybody going to bring this up and watch how this all comes together? Because I really think that this team has more information than we could ever imagine when it comes to when they say it's biblical. What's biblical? Well, if you want to talk about biblical stuff, you go through and you read your stories in the Old Testament, it's filled with all kinds of junk, good stuff and bad stuff. They don't hold back. When our Heavenly Father had those 40 guys for 1,500 years write everything down, he put the good, bad, and ugly in there. And we're watching it play out right before our eyes. And it is discouraging when folks say, I have not seen it go fast enough. Really? Go back and read the Bible and find out how many years it took to get things to move around. Oh, so-and-so was in power for 20 years, the king, and then he was finally removed. And then the next guy steps in. Oh, then he was a good king. But after he did things good for 5 years, he then twisted and went back to the devil. Like, how many times do we see that? Oh, let's see. People complained. Let's go biblical. You ready? People complained because they didn't want to go into a land that was promised them. So they complained and said, oh, no, there's giants. We're grasshoppers. They're too big. We can't go there. You were promised by the creator of this universe to go into this land. And now you want to question him. You had a promise. It was all laid out before you. And what did you do? You complained. And what happened? Oh, guess what? Everybody 20 years and younger, you're gonna live. Everybody 20 and over, you're done. You're going to walk in circles for 40 years. And all of you are going to die. And those that are 20 years and below, if I got the age wrong, it could be 20 and below. But bottom line is, those 20-year-olds, when they finally went back, you'll notice one thing and one thing only when Joshua took over. They didn't complain when he said, let's cross over that huge river that was rushing water. Are you crazy? Nobody said that. Nobody said, I'm not going to cross that river. That's crazy, man. We're in the middle of the spring season, whatever was going on. They did not complain. They picked up that ark and they're like, okay, here we go. And they walked before the 1 million people. All 2 million could have raised their voices and said, you guys are crazy. Don't go down that river. You're going to die. Not one person did it. Nobody. But it took 40 years of people who complained to wake them up and say, you better watch out. You better be careful, because if you complain, you don't know what's going to happen on the end. And the one thing I'm noticing about our nation, about what's going on, is there are very, very few complainers now, and there's many, many more warriors, and they're out on social media, and they're dropping their TikToks, and they're dropping their X files, and they're dropping their YouTubes now, getting back on there. And they're like, I'm not giving up. I'm going to continue to fight. And we're not going to complain. We're going to move forward because we were given a promise. And I believe that those promises are going to happen. When we start getting into that doubt side and we start wondering what's going to happen next, well, just go back and watch Josh again get fired up about the cue board, and you'll be fine.
Absolutely. 100%. One of the things that I learned, when I came into this movement to join you guys in this fight, is because I always look at everything from, the operational side and the strategy side. And I said, well, as the people out there doing the analysis or the assessment of these things, if we're doing it right and we're accurate with the, what the potential things that the deep state is trying to do to humanity or our country, then that means by us putting that information out, we're going to affect the deep state doing that, which means they either have to shift plans to a contingency they have, or they just can't do that at all. So that means when maybe that timeline or that set of information finally comes that everybody's like, well, you guys said something was going to happen. Nothing happened. I think a lot of people have misinterpreted that as, well, you missed the mark or there was a failure, rather than, no, you did your job right.
Yeah.
And you thwarted what they were trying to do.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Outstanding. You know, I go biblical a lot because I really, really love scripture, and I love how it brings everything back together. There was a guy that was responsible for rebuilding a nation, and he was a cupbearer named Nehemiah. And he said a prayer. That one prayer got answered, and he had it out with the permission of that guy who gave him plenty of resources to go in and rebuild that wall. If you go back and read all the chapters, you're going to see a continuous message through every chapter. As they were building, the enemy shows up, and the enemy starts making accusations. The next chapter, after they cleaned up the last chapter and everything was good, and the enemy showed up again to make accusations. And the people start going, oh no, oh no. And what does Nehemiah do? He says, guys, don't worry about it. Look, take a sword in one hand and take your tool in the other and continue to work on the wall. We're going to be fine. He had to keep reassuring them over and over again that at the end of this, everything's going to work out. And so it's a huge responsibility. We're in the same, humans have not changed. We have not changed. It's not like, oh, everything just went honky-dory because, supposedly 2,000 years ago, we had a massive change in everything because all of a sudden our Savior lays himself on a cross for us. And then 3 days later, he comes to life and then he ascends to heaven. He didn't say, hey, everything's going to be great now. See you guys later. It's all cleaned up. All those folks that were upset with me, oh, they're not mad at me anymore. They're all happy and everything's going to be wonderful, guys. He did not say that. He did not say that. And that's something that we have to remember. What he did say and remind us of is we're going to be persecuted and we're going to be constantly harassed. Why? Because we hold the truth. And who is the ultimate truth, right? I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No man gets to the Father except by me. That's the ultimate, Jesus Christ, and that's who I hold to. And so whenever we're bringing truth, it's like acid being poured on these people that can't stand it. And it's hard. And I whenever I woke up to 9/11, I tell folks all the time, when the guy was telling me what was going on, I was yelling at him at the top of my lungs, literally like Marine Corps drill instructor. I was so mad at him. He was in the Army. He was in uniform. I was a government service civilian at the time. And I just could not believe the stuff he was telling me. I know what it feels like to be brainwashed.
Yeah.
And it took me a couple of years later for me to wake up, do my research, and then I had to write him back. And finally I got to talk to him and apologize to him because he didn't want to talk to me anymore. So I understand how hard it is to talk to people and wake them up. It's very difficult.
It is. Go ahead, Elton. Go ahead.
I'll be real quick with it, Josh. One of the things that our creator understood as well is how hard faith was. One of my favorite parts or stories in the Bible is the conversation surrounding the mustard seed, and how he says, if you had the faith of the mustard seed, you could command those mountains and they would jump into the water or something to that sort.
Yeah.
And to me, why that story was so important is because it was like, he literally picked one of the smallest seeds that exists and says, if you could just muster up that much faith, that's how much power you had. So if anything, he understood how hard that was going to be for us going on and on and on. So go ahead, Josh. And then since we brought up Cash was on Hannity today. And I got about a 2-minute clip that I'd like to play for you guys and hear it. But go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, no, I mean, everything that you said there sparked a lot within me. And, in 2020, when when the presidency got stolen from Trump, November 18th on my show, I came out and I said, guys, it's not going to happen. Everybody's like, oh, we got January 6th, we got December 14th, and we got, he'll be inaugurated. Don't worry. I just stuck to my word. And I said, no, I think that this is what's going to happen. And, the intuition that I had at the time, and I have this on my podcast, I said, Trump's going to go out and create a social media company. He's gonna gather as many people as he can and get the word out, get the truth out. He'll probably be prosecuted, but 2024, that's when it's going to begin. And it was interesting because a lot of people left my show. I lost half my audience because they said I abandoned Trump. That I wasn't believing all the other people out there saying that, he's going to be inaugurated March 1st, or we still have Congress. And I said, no, I don't think you understood. This was a coup, guys. This was a coup. We just witnessed it. They have the power. It's not coming back at this point in time. And people didn't like that. They didn't want to hear it. And I know that shatters a lot of the belief of people, right? That we had hope and faith and we thought that this was all coming. But, God has a different timeline. And I think that we're on God's time right now, that what we're watching right now, the level of synchronicity, the mathematical impossibilities that are occurring, the bullet that just grazed Donald Trump's ears. Guys, we are living in absolute biblical times. And if you cannot see the work of the hand of God, then you're not paying attention. This is real. This is legit. And I hear a lot of people like, I don't understand why, the biblical times don't happen now. They are right in front of you. Like look what's happening. It's right now. And, one thing I'll say is you have to stick to your word, right? Is that I've been persistent in my context of what I've told people since the beginning, since I've been out there as a podcaster. And I think that level of integrity is so valuable for anybody that's doing broadcasting. And I know Alpha has it. I know LT has it. And there's a lot of other ones. But, there's also the other side. There's a lot of people out there that aren't. That they're grifters, or they're foreign agents, or they're deep state agents, or they're there to rile things up and promulgate BS. And we have to keep that in mind. And that's why, when we got censored, when everybody got deleted, I got deleted from all platforms overnight. Facebook, Patreon account. I was on I had a podcast going out to all the podcasting channels, YouTube, everything. One night, just all gone. And that was that was right at the beginning of COVID. And that was my only source of income to feed my family. That was what do I do? Right. And I said, you know what? I'm going to start back up again. I'm going to decentralize. I'm going to start back up again. And I started with 15 people watching me live on another YouTube channel, and then started to go back out there and build my channel up to where I am today. And, God will bless you, man. God will absolutely bless you if you stick to who you are, if you keep that level of integrity of yourself, and that you're actually propagating information out there. And, one of my, the one Bible verse that I have hanging over my bed is Romans 12:2. Right? Do not conform to do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Right? And it just means so much, because when you start to look at it, it's telling you, guys, don't just become a sheep in this world. And I know your context is sheep, but different sheep. Don't become a sheep. Don't become a regurgitator. Don't become an echo chamber. Don't become someone who just lives inside this small little box of information. Expand out there, grow. Knowledge is the food for your mind, and continuously expand out there within the conceptualization of what's happening in the world. Don't just believe everything you hear. And that was actually Romans 12:2 that I wrote the motto for the Red Pill Project. Never believe anything anybody tells you, no matter who they are or what authority they possess or profess, unless you can prove it with your own research, your own inquiry, through your own investigation, and through your own volition. And I think that holds so true today, because we are in the primary domain of this war is information. And people need to understand how to recognize bad information, false information, propagating information, or information that is being utilized to control you emotionally, and to understand and recognize truth. And truth is something, guys, that you will just feel it in your heart, and it spreads throughout your body. It's a knowing. It's a knowing, other than I believe it. No, it's a knowing.
You have to exercise your discernment. And, when we all get, some people call it a hunch, everybody has a different way of describing it. But when you ultimately trust your gut, and then you see that you're accurate, then the next time you recognize that hunch again, you're like, oh, it benefited me the last time I trusted this. And what you're talking about is it's your discernment. It's your spirit recognizing you probably shouldn't go down that way, or you probably shouldn't make that purchase, or you probably should. And same thing applies with information. As you start to exercise that discernment, you grow it. And as you grow it, become more accurate. And as you become more accurate, you start to get a little bit more bold. And it's a cycle that works in a good thing. So with that, I'm going to bring up this video. Shout out to the Storm Redux is the one that posted this, and that's where I saw it. Tell me, here's the thing. When you hear Cash speak right now, I feel like the party's just getting started. So let me play the clip. It's 2 minutes and 28 seconds, folks.
We had Jack Smith spying on elected United States senators and representatives, and they knew who they were calling, where they were calling from, where the person was receiving the call, who was receiving the call. You have fired the agents that were involved in that operation. What can you tell us about it?
Sean, I want to peel this onion carefully. Look, they put this information, those that weaponized the FBI and prior leadership at DOJ and FBI, they took this information where they subpoenaed 8 sitting United States senators, put it in a lockbox, put that lockbox in a vault, and then put that vault in a cyber place where no one can see or search these files. They're called restricted access and prohibited access. Restricted access means some people get to see it. Prohibited access, you put it in there when you want to hide it from the world, and that takes the authorization of the Attorney General and the Director of the FBI. So not only did they weaponize this law enforcement, but when we got in there, and when I got in as the FBI Director, from my experience as Russiagate, I knew where to look and what rooms to open and what doors to kick down. And that's what we did. We found this information to expose the politicization by Jack Smith and the prior Department of Justice. I mean, just think about it. 8 sitting United States senators, phone records were gathered and subpoenaed through the grand jury process, and it was buried and wormholed with the hope that no one would find it. So we're just scratching the surface here, but accountability is coming. You're darn right I fired those agents. You're darn right I blew up CR-15, the public corruption squad that led the weaponization at the Washington field office. We're just warming up, but we are running our investigations to the ground. We are finding every single person involved. We will not leave a single room locked. We will go in through all the prohibited access requirements, and we will find the material and show the American public, like we have done in this FBI, more transformative and transparent than any in the U.S. history, to bring accountability to the American people. And we will work with our partners in Congress, who should be furious at the prior administration's leadership and weaponization and singular politicization of law enforcement. The American public sees what we're doing, Sean, with the stats you just read off in the beginning. They see what we're doing here to unseal the vault and show the world how the deep state actually operated. It's not a Republican fiction. This is what Donald Trump was put in place to do, and I'm honored to be his FBI director to lead this charge. And the men and women at the FBI, we're all in on this mission.
So as I give it to you guys, some things that just caught my attention. Unseal the vault, the deep state, it's coming. And with that, I'll give it to you, gentlemen.
LT, go ahead.
Go ahead, Josh.
Oh, okay. So number one is I love Cash. I think he's amazing, but there's no broom closet or burn bags with classified documents. That's absolute nonsense. It's just for everybody out there, it's a cover story. There's no secret access locker and here's the thing is, if you want to know I'm right, go out there and listen to Clapper and Brennan and Comey when they're on the mainstream media talking about this, and they'll say those documents don't exist. This is Russian propaganda. Nope, that never happened. Those don't exist. The reason they're saying that is because they know they were destroyed. They know they were destroyed. And so what happened? My theory, you have General Dan Kane, 2018, after annihilating the ISIS caliphate, goes over to the Pentagon and becomes the head of all special access programs over at the Pentagon, gets a call from Donald Trump. They create a special access program for military intelligence to begin preserving and documenting all of the actions of the deep state. That's what they were investigating years prior. And so they continued that. And when the Biden administration came in and began destroying all these things, they were all backed up. And now the Trump administration is in and handed it off to Tulsi Gabbard, who, by the way, is still a lieutenant colonel in the United States Army, which has never been done before, ever. In the cabinet positions, which means how do you get the military intelligence over all 3 letter agencies? Right there, Lieutenant Colonel Tulsi Gabbard. And they're just handing it to her, and she's sending criminal referrals directly to the DOJ. So there is no magic locker. It is a magic locker. It's at the probably at the Pentagon or the DIA, and they've been collecting the information for a decade on the deep state. That's why we have it all.
Outstanding, man. Josh, you're fired up. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, when you start to look at it,
Yeah.
like I remember when I first came out and talked about Dan Kane,
Yeah.
nobody knew who he was.
Mhm.
I'm like, hey, I'm like to my audience, I'm like, hey, did you guys ever notice that Donald Trump at his rallies is like raising Dan Kane? Does anybody ever decided to go out there and look up who Dan Kane was? I go nobody's talking about him. I'm like, I wonder what his background is. Oh, it just happened to be one of the pilots on September 11th over Washington, D.C. Just happened to be the guy that annihilated the ISIS caliphate, went and led all SAP programs for the Pentagon, and then became the direct liaison for covert operations between the Pentagon and the CIA under Trump. And I'm like, this isn't a coincidence.
Yeah.
Like, this man, now he's the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And I
love it.
But it's like,
they brought him
guys'
back.
patients are in control.
Yeah, they brought him back in. That is so good. That is so good. You would have been a great gunny in the Marine Corps. Oh man.
So I don't know what's happening. I've checked the timestamps. There's one that might actually have some relevance here. But Dan Scavino, just a few minutes ago, 10:32 p.m. Eastern time, Trump eating some popcorn.
Oh.
Now, interestingly enough, you go to 10:32 on the boards, and it's think Navy ship crashes bigger than we are active. So I look at contextual reference frames for everything we are. A lot of focus on the Navy, so think Navy ships. Don't worry about the crashes part. We are active. As in, could we be running operations right now in Venezuela? I already know we have been running covert operations with special operation forces in Venezuela, but now I think that we're going to have some of the Navy out there sending some missiles into Central and South America and decimating some cartels and some other things that I think are out there.
Well, there's definitely something that's going on with the now. I'll bring this up. I kind of hinted to this a little bit earlier with you, Josh, and I'm not sure if you had a chance to see it, LT. Let me bring this on the screen so everybody can see it. We've talked about this, that the images, it's now or never. Me and Josh have talked about this. You have the RT video, and then you have Trump's static image, which is a way higher resolution. And we cover this stuff, but I kept saying, like, I feel like there's more. So me and Josh have been digging into this. And while I was looking for something else, because that's how it always happens, right? You find the car keys when you finally give up on them. You're looking for the TV remote. And I come across a post from General Flynn. And this post came here, and I'll show it on the screen for everybody right here. This post was from October the 3rd. And in this post, he put something that a lot of people did talk about. We caught them all, because we're all very familiar with that from a lot of videos people have made. There is one Q post that says caught them all. It doesn't have the word we in it. But something that we missed was the last sentence. He put, it's now or never. Now, this is October 3rd. The protest in Tel Aviv doesn't happen, and our RT doesn't post about it, or Trump, until the afternoon and early evening of the following day. So you have Flynn that was, I mean, unless we just want to say it's coincidence again. and he put the, now is in all capitals, never is in all capitals. So when you go back and you look at these things, I found the posts, and I'm looking for the number. Here we go. When I looked up now or never, or caught them all, it brought me to post 3852 for those that want to see it. And 3852 has caught them all, and that brought me to post 3596. 3596 is from November 15th, which is right around the corner. Well, when you look into that post, this is what it reads. What advantages might exist when you know the other side's playbook? And then it has a link to a definition. And when you go and you look it up, the definition is for the word trap. And then it says, enjoy the show. Q. So is this telling us now or never equals the trap? I mean, I'm up to hearing people's thought process on this. But again, just so everybody sees it, because I like for people to see it with their own eyes. There's General Michael Flynn's post from the 3rd. And then obviously you have RT that posted it on October the 4th. And then you have President Trump's post that came later on in the early evening, October 4th. And then obviously the other, you have the post 3852, which is from February 10th, that references post 3596, which is from November 15th, which has caught them all.
Yeah.
And so, and that's why I'm saying that caught them all, which definitely correlates with what General Flynn is putting out there in the lines. I don't know. It seems like there's a there.
So, and I think we have to bring some foundational reference to this, because I don't know if a lot of the DEFCON crowd knows this decode, because it happened after our last Tuesday show. And so what we're talking about here in Alpha, if I can pull something up real quick, I can do this really brief, and you guys are going to love this. So this is a still image of Russia Times posting the Tel Aviv protest. Now, does anybody out there know how many cameras or media are allowed into protests inside of Israel?
They have that stuff on lockdown. There's a lot of stuff you got to do to get access, and then when you do get access, you can't post it unless they okay it.
Correct. This was a drone zooming out from this level up to about 2,000 feet. So this is a high-level commercial DJI drone that's taking this footage. Well, Israel disapproves 99.9% of all drones that are going over protests. Now, it's now or never. Now, this is where it gets interesting, because if you look at this photo from RT, this is a screenshot directly from RT's video. Now, it could be compression or whatever, but see how it's blurred? You can't make out the audience or the crowd. The word never's blurred out. This is Trump's post. Notice a difference in resolution?
Oh, yeah.
Massive difference in resolution. Now, how is that possible? Well, I got confirmation that the U.S. is running RQ-4 stealth drones over Gaza.
Oh.
And I'm like, did Trump just fly a RQ-4 drone over Israel and take pictures of the Tel Aviv protest and then post them on his True Social account when he's telling Israel it's now or never?
Oh. Yeah.
Right? And what's the rhetoric? Trump coming out and saying, hey, I got we got the greatest weapons in the world and most advanced technology 30 years beyond anybody. And then what's Netanyahu do today? Comes out and says the same thing, doesn't he?
Yep. Yeah, he sure did.
Right? So this is where it gets really interesting, because Trump posted this other post about, where is it? It's this one right here. Yep. After negotiations, right? Now, the timestamp for this one, this is where it gets crazy, is 1602. Right? And he's telling them, hey, look, we're going to accept Hamas to steal Israel. Don't screw this up. This is what we're hearing in the backdrop. Well, what is 1602? If you continue to proceed down this dangerous path, only know that we are prepared. You should know this based on earlier drops, SA, National Guard, military assets activated on U.S. soil. The game is over when the public knows the fight to keep the lights off is all that matters to you. You will fail. The American people are awake. You lost control. Sheeps no more. You underestimated the resolve and their ability to free think away from the pipeline narrative. So then he does those two other posts. It's now or never. I mean, that's not a coincidence, right?
Yeah. But
then the delta for the day that he posted is this. Israel intelligence, stand down. Media assets will be removed. Isn't it interesting that Donald Trump posted media assets of a Tel Aviv protest on his Truth Social on the delta of that on October 4th? That's mind-blowing, right?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, wow. Then Alpha sent me that, and I said, hold on a second here, right? And military precision, mathematically impossible coincidences. So we just talked about it. Flynn posted on October 3rd, 8:14 a.m. in the post that says it's now or never, right? Yeah. The next day, there's a big protest in Tel Aviv. We talked about the RT video, the drone video. Trump posted a screenshot of the protest, much higher resolution photo. He posted it October 4th at 6:34 p.m. The image, you can clearly see it's now or never, the same exact phrase Flynn used the day before. What are the odds? Difference in the time of the postings, 34 hours and 20 minutes. You ready for this?
Okay.
What's Q34, 3420? Only Anons can fully appreciate the continued validation confirmation through covert series of mathematically impossible coincidences means it in order to maintain structural integrity. So when Trump posted it and Flynn posted it, that is the post that it goes to, 3420.
This was so great when we were on the phone talking about it, because we're like, there's this post and there's that post, and we're trying to find it. And then Josh comes up, he goes, 34 hours and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And, he goes, hold on. And then when he pulls it up, I was like, no, bro. No.
Yeah.
And the other interesting part about that is in the post where Donald Trump uses again, Flynn does it in the last sentence. Donald Trump does it in the last sentence. And I think that there's these patterns that they're creating with X being this new quasi board of communications. I think they're kind of getting us used to, they're training us on what to look for. And so again, you have General Flynn that you did it with the last sentence. And then on Donald Trump's post, he put stay tuned as the last sentence. And when you go and you look up stay tuned on the boards, it brings you to post 2301, which is a September 30th date. You know, and if you're going, done in 30 days later, it'll take you to October 30th. But the interesting thing is what it says. Red October, stay tuned and watch. Plus. I mean, they are talking to us through X. If we're paying attention, they are talking to us through X.
Yeah, he did another air cue on the ship the other day too. You saw that? Yeah. I haven't seen that in a long time. That was good to hear.
And this is getting nuts because we're going through the Flynn videos that he posted, the 3 different videos that he posted. Yeah. And there was timestamp coordination to Trump's post, the Batman on the precipice on the edge of the mountain, and the Dilly meme team video. What was interesting is 2 of the post references went to board is compromised. Post will be here from now forth.
Oh.
Like as in post is going, like this is where you're going to go for your boards right now. Like pay attention to us.
Yeah.
So I've always said that the boards were a proxy board of communication, the same way that in World War II, if you had a U.S. spy in the middle of Germany, how does he communicate? How do they communicate with other spies? You know, the coffee shop has an open sign that's just tilted to a 45-degree angle. He knows inside his mind that means go to the library, go to the 10th bookshelf on the right, 3rd shelf up, pick the 44th book, open the page 136, and there's your message, right? Like it's a proxy board of communication. Yeah. And so I've always treated it like such. And people are like, well, how do you get into the bigger timestamps? Well, you have to go distance between posts. So we always look for contextual reference frames, right? So there has to be some type of context to occurring events in the world or within the post itself that matches. And then you can take that between 2 Trump posts and you can find, hey, that's 3480, right? And now you go to post 3480. And then right there, there's contextual reference to 3480, what's happening in the world right there and the post that he just made. You're like, like this is the Bible code, man. It's like crazy.
The Bible code. Yeah, it's the same thing when he posts something, he'll delete it and then post it again. And you look at the time between those. Like Dan Scavino does the same thing. And we get pretty excited and you look it up and it always matches. Makes me wonder, sometimes I try to get a vision of the guys sitting in a room that actually do this stuff, that figure it all out for them. I'd love to hang out with them just for, like a week and just see how they do this. Absolutely brilliant.
It is brilliant.
He might disagree, but I'm sure it's funny. I'm positive. It's cool.
The one thing, and I've shared this before. I don't know if I've ever shared it on the Badlands stuff, but when I was, when I ended up going to the school district, in the fight to get my badge back, they saw my background and they're like, hey, we want to put you in charge of the gang program. I said, yeah, I'm definitely fine with that. I love that. And so eventually they approached me. They said, hey, we want you to create a gang program because we want to rid the gang problem in the schools. This is Palm Springs Unified School District down here in Southern California. It's a big school district. And so, I went to the director and I said, listen, is this something you guys are doing because you got to show the parents you're doing something? Or is this something because you legitimately want to go after this program or this problem? And I said, and the reason I'm asking is I need to know how much myself to be vested into this because I got a lot going on in the world right now. And he's like, no, we really want to tackle this problem. So I said, okay. So I started to research all the gang programs that exist in our schools from elementary to high school, private schools throughout the country. And there were some great programs out there. But the one thing that I noticed, and I promise folks, it'll make sense where I'm going with this. The one thing I noticed with all these programs is they worked in their immediate deployment, but gangs are a living creature, a living entity. So as soon as they adjusted to these programs, the program was rendered ineffective. And so when I noticed that, I said, well, then how how do you defeat that? Because they're going to adjust to anything that we decide.
Mm.
So what I ended up realizing is you have to create a living program, a program that shows you this is the intent of this part, this is the intent of that part, but there's room for it to evolve as the gang adjusts to it. And this created a very complicated process, but ultimately we were able to lock this down into something that was deployable, and it was something that would work in decades to come.
Mm.
And so when I started to look, because I'm very new to Q, despite what people might think, I was awakened a lot later than a lot of folks. But one of the things that I was able to recognize and analyze right away is when I looked at the board, I saw something that I recognized, and I said, "This is a operation that's very fluid.
Mm.
This is an operation that will adjust to whatever's going on when it's deployed." I immediately recognized that, and I said, "But why?" And that's when I started to realize that, when a lot of people say, "Well, when's the ending coming?" And I think there are some markers in the timeline that exist, predetermined dates that the things are gonna happen regardless of what's going on. But I think there's other fluid markers that are also very dependent on us, we the people. That's very dependent on the information that we get out into the battlefield, to the trenches of information warfare. And I think that's why when the boards say, and I think a lot of people misinterpret, Patriots in control, because there's 3 posts where the boards talk about we have contingencies for everything.
Yep.
And the reason that was so important to me, LT, is because I was like, well, if we're in complete control, we wouldn't need contingencies, because everything that's going to happen, it's a script that's out there.
Yep.
And so what that told me is when we say Patriots are in control, that means we have contingencies for everything that the deep state does when we deploy whatever said operation is, but that there are real things that are going to be unpredictable, but we're prepared to handle them when they happen.
Mm.
And so when you hear that conversation, because it's probably one of the most popular conversations that I hear people argue when they're talking pro Q and people that are anti Q in these virtual town halls that we call spaces. When you hear people use the reference, trust the plan or Patriots are in control, what's your personal interpretation of what that means?
For me, you're talking to me?
Yes.
Yeah, good question that comes up quite a bit when I go on other shows. They bring up the same thing, and I'm not one of those guys that thinks that every single thing that's happening is perfection and we've got it all lined up and it's going to play out exactly the way that they say it's going to play out. I'm not that guy. And I'm actually far from it. And I feel like if you think you can control billions of people and all of these deep snakes that have been in power for hundreds of years and they passed it on from generation to generation, I can't even imagine what it's like to sit down and even consider that we're going to take down these 13 blood families that have been controlling this entire earth. Number one. Number two, I can't imagine knowing that they belong to this powerful entity that's able to deceive nations and has enormous power. And people sometimes forget how much power the enemy has in when you look at it from a spiritual sense. So how do you sit down at a board and say, hey guys, I've got a plan. What are you gonna do? We're gonna take down the 13 families that have been controlling this entire earth. Oh, that's funny. How are you gonna do that? I mean, imagine that first conversation, even. And so, of course, I'm more on the outskirts looking in, watching all these guys have conversations. And I forgot the guy's name, but there was somebody. He's gone now, and I liked him a lot. He had a beard. I forgot his name, but he said that 50 generals came together after JFK's assassination, and they were the ones that sat down and said, we need to come up with a way to get rid of these guys. And they had to create this entire system and plan over decades to get to where we are today, right? And I've been guilty of thinking that, well, because I didn't believe in 100% that it's all going to play out perfectly. And yes, we say every now and then, this is part of a movie. President Trump will say central casting every now and then. Whenever he says central casting, I think sometimes what he does is he's just letting us know, look, we set a bunch of folks down. We had a guy walk in the room that wants to run the Department of Homeland Security. And he was he was about 5 foot tall. and kind of skinny, doesn't have any muscles. And then we have this guy walk in, and he looks like a Tom Holman, and he looks like he wants to hurt everybody that he comes in contact with. That's my guy. They both have the same resume. They can both do the job, but he had to cast out a certain amount of people to make sure that they do the right job. So I sidebar on that one. Tulsi Gabbard, Central Casting, right? Kash Patel, Central. They had to make sure they had the right folks, and then they put them in front of us for years so that when they got to the confirmation hearings, what are we the people doing? You better put that person in because I know who they are. Where do I go with that? So the reason I to kind of prove to you that I don't fall for the whole thing, like everything's perfect, it's going to play out, that everything's perfect, is back what you brought up, Josh, earlier about the elections and how it played out in 2020. I was on the fringe. I've never been a fan of going all out on what everybody's on board with, and therefore I'm going to tell everybody this is how it's going to play out.
Right.
That's very dangerous, and it can cause a lot of damage, and it can make people just run away and say I've had enough. And so when we have information we don't know 100% solid it's true, then we have to be careful what we deliver to the folks. So back when that happened, it was leading up to the inauguration. Everybody remembers almost everybody out there, it seemed like they were saying there's going to be arrests on the day of the inauguration. They're going to walk up and arrest them all on live TV.
Yep.
And I was not telling people that. I was saying this is what the rumblings are. But in my mind, I got roped in. In other words, I wanted that to happen so bad. So when it didn't, I went into a deep depression. I actually went down hard. I was like, man, this is it. We're done. The operation's done. That was my feeling. So Josh, hats off to you for what you did and staying on mission to help keep guys like me to realize like, hey, don't give up because there are things going on. And I think this is how it's going to play out. I needed guys like you to get that information out so it would help bring me back from the sinking ship that I was on. And so what I did was the day after the inauguration, I told everybody this is my final broadcast. I was going to shut everything down because I felt like everybody would be disappointed. Everybody's going to be depressed. Our nation's going to go to hell and we're done. And that's it. We're going to be a third world country. And so what was interesting was the day after that broadcast, the people reached out to me via email, and I got flooded with thousands and thousands, probably 50,000 emails. It had to be of please don't give up. Please keep delivering the information. I'm like, why do people want this? We just lost. That was me. We're done. And so after a lot of prayer, we talk about faith of a mustard seed. So I'm kind of tying both of you guys into this one. It's interesting how it all comes together. I went back to prayer, what I really loved the most, and I went back and read scripture, whatever. And I was like, man, I'm so tired. And I said, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm just going to get up and I'm going to start researching again and see what happens. And so when guys like you, Josh, are out there and you're putting information out, at the time, I started going, wait a minute. That's a good point. Wait a minute. Let me go back and watch the inauguration. And so when I watched it, that's when I realized, wait, how could it be so sunny? Because I've got this guy with his phone 500 yards away and there's clouds above and there's snow falling. That was the first thing that made me realize, wait a minute, what's going on? And it got me interested again, started doing the research, started looking at other anons and realized, oh, I see what's going on. They had a fake inauguration. They put that out for the masses to see. The White House was basically, nobody was in there because I have a guy who actually I'm connected to who works for President Trump now on that level. So I had that information. I was like, man, what's going on? And so that started the digging again, which got me excited, which then led me to the military side, which was what? Whenever they had him go to the tomb of the unknown soldier, now everybody knows, but I caught on to it right away. I said, hold on. How come they only have 3 guns and 2 are going off every 10 seconds? But how come when a president, so I went back and watched the past 3 presidents before Biden, every single time when he swears in and he does, puts his right hand up, they always play the cannons, dun, 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 the flags of furls, whatever it's called. And then you've got the 21 gun salute, right? They didn't do that for Biden. They waited till he got to the tomb of the unknown soldier, and then they did a funeral shooting. So who was dead? So then what? Then I went back and said, hold on a second. And President Trump said December 21st, he was shot. He's shot. So in our vernacular in English, we think that you're shot means you've lost your mind. But he put his finger to his head and said, he's shot. And he goes, it was around December 21st that he lost his mind. And I'm like, oh, I get it. So then I got excited again and I realized, man, what's going on? Then you were out there and many others were out there hammering, hey guys, this is what's going to happen. We've got all the information. They're going to be in a box. They're not going to be able to move outside of a certain box because of these orders that were put together by President Trump before he stepped in. That got me excited again to where we are now. And man, did it take, that was a long 4 years of dealing with this, the junk that was going on. But what made it okay for the past four years with Biden, in my opinion, was the number of memes and how stupid he was behaving the entire time. I've always told people, I think there's 4 different guys. They've got masks on, and they're doing a great job making sure that we're all back here laughing at this character, whoever he is, making him look like a fool, which makes them look like fools to wake the masses up. And I don't know why I'm talking about all this, but I'm trying to bring it all together in a sense of, thankfully, we are where we are today. Thankfully, the Q board is now, to me, it's been revived since President Trump walked in. It has been on fire since January. I mean, we can't stop. Every time we do a podcast, like, I can't believe it. The next day, do you know how much information we're given the next day? How in the world are we going to keep up with all of this? It's crazy. Here's where, the parts where I get really, I still get nervous about, and other things. It's like, why would you throw Albert Bourla in front of everybody? I don't get that. So then I have to figure out how that whole thing works. And then my friend who I talk with, I'm like, hey, what do you think about this? Because we still have to talk with each other. It's not like we're going to look at everything and say it's all beautiful and perfect. It's not that I'm doubting President Trump. I want to know what he's up to, because something weird's going on. So I listened to it again, and it was like, hey, he said he's spending $70 billion. Oh, they're going to spend money and give it to us. Number one. Number two, RFK Jr., we're getting that visual of him looking at him like, dude, if I could take you down right now, I would take you down at a heartbeat. You don't want to mess with RFK Jr. That dude's ripped. And so he had that look on his face, and it almost made me think, like, now we're moving you into our territory and we're going to keep an eye on you. And oh, by the way, we're going to lower these prices. So then it made me realize, hold on a second. And I was having this conversation with my wife. How many millions and millions of people are spending money on medication, and it's super expensive, and you have to take it one step at a time. And if we can get these prices down for the normies who don't pay attention to the Q board, who don't want to hear anything that we have to say, there's one thing that they could say is, man, do you notice our drug prices dropped? How did that happen? We brought the enemy in. We can't call him the enemy, but let's say, we brought this guy in, and all of a sudden they spend all this money, and we're keeping an eye on him to make sure he does the right thing. That's the only way I can justify things. That's where I get more of the, of the nervous side of the, I don't see it all as perfect. I'm still confused too. So then I have to go to folks and go to the Word of God and pray and say, please help me figure this out, because I don't have all the answers. Does that make sense?
It absolutely does, because there's nights where me and Josh, especially after the show, we stay in the studio, we'll debrief some of the stuff. We'll see, hey, did we deliver what we're aiming for? And in the course of all this, we end up uncovering more information. And a lot of times the stuff that we uncover is not sunshine and rainbows. It's very concerning information. And so one of us will put a post out on it, or sometimes we'll say we'll just do it on the next show. But we'll figure a way to put the information out, which brings me to this conversation that we were having this past week. And Josh, you'll remember this. And all of a sudden, it got mentioned by the general. And I was just like, okay, we need to dig here. So this is how it started right here. So I put on this post. The date on it was October the 2nd, 11:16 p.m. my time, Pacific. And I put, we're living through the stress fracture moments of history, Red October. Now, to summarize the post itself, it was talking about, and I want to say, I think it was you, Josh, that brought this up, that Trump and Melania were having dinner at the VP's house. And so I started to look into this. I'm like, oh, they're doing this quite a few times. What's up with this? And then I found out somebody dropped a little note in my ear and said, "Do you know that JFK and RFK were doing that?" And I was like, "Really? Let me go research this." So when I went and researched this, they were doing this, and they were doing it in the month of October, and this was because of the Cuban Missile Crisis. They knew that they didn't feel comfortable talking in the formal places of these cabinet meetings, so they're bringing to these informal settings, dinners, whatever the case may be, to figure out how they could do this without being worried about eavesdropping. And so then I put out this post saying, are we looking at, the Cuban Missile Crisis 2.0? So then that brings us to this, which was a few hours ago. General Flynn puts, "Wait until we learn how else Cuba is spying on us and subverting our government. When that eventually comes out, it will put this organization to shame." And he's quote posting Ana Paulina Luna that did the Armed Career SLC, the stuff that we talk about where they're spying on some of our congressmen, some of the Americans, the parents, the J6ers, and all this stuff. So you have this reference again to Cuba. We know what's going on right now in Venezuela. We've had at-length conversations with the sub that we believe that's in the Mediterranean, or that's in the Caribbean, and our Navy that's positioned out there. So I give it to you, gentlemen. Do we see some type of scenario where we're looking at the Cuban Missile Crisis 2.0? Maybe it's not Cuba, but we're talking about that scenario, that formula.
Well, I think it's already happening. I think that's so it just doesn't make sense. And for LT out there, when I served, I did 3 deployments to the South Pacific, South Pac AOR. That's what we did. We did narco terrorism. I was remember the visit. Lawson's out there, Boats. He's listening right now. I know he is. He's going to hit me up. But me and Boats on that first deployment, we were the visit board search and seizure team that was working with Coast Guard lead that was boarding these vessels, right? And the interesting thing about Southcom AOR is it's massive. It's not just the Caribbean. It's the whole side of South America with Ecuador and Peru and Colombia. It's all the way up from Panama, Costa Rica, Honduras, throughout Mexico, Mazatlan, Manzanillo, Cabo. That's Southcom AOR. And so it's the extension of the Pacific Ocean. And here's the thing is 95% of all drug trafficking and human trafficking that occurs from the Southcom AOR happens in the Pacific. So why do we have 8 Navy vessels and a submarine sitting in the Caribbean? It doesn't, and Trump's like, well, we need more targets. Dude, they're over on the Pacific side, I guarantee you. Because if I was Venezuela, I'd be moving all my drugs over to Colombia, from Colombia to Peru and Ecuador, and then I'd be distributing them out on a larger channel line, which they've been doing for decades. And we know these channel lines. So it's like, I'm sitting here going, why are they focusing all this military power right there in the Caribbean? And so then we start to put things together. We learn that a lot of the Reaper drones that are operated in Southcom AOR are outfitted with ASW packages, anti-submarine warfare packages. So when you start to understand anti-submarine warfare packages, they're looking for submarines. And if you look at the positioning of the naval ships out there, so the Caribbean's really interesting. The only way out of the Caribbean is through the island chain right there at the tip of South America, or through the Panama Canal. Well, who controls the Panama Canal right now? Oh, massive strategy right there. But if you look at the position of all the U.S. ships, they are running that square pattern right there on the other exit into the Atlantic. So submarine, if it's in there, it can't escape. They got it trapped. And then we heard about last week that China was sending naval ships to the Venezuela area to extract Maduro. Now, we know China actually outfitted a lot of their civilian ships as military ships, so it's probably some that are probably disguised. I don't know. But this is why we have this naval presence there. And I think that it's going to come to some type of standoff. But I think what we're going to actually see happen first is naval bombardment of Venezuela, of various parts in South America, cartel locations, but not only cartel locations. I talk about Venezuela as an autonomous region. The reason I say that is there's no international oversight. So it's like Ukraine, right? Ukraine doesn't have any alliance to NATO or to the EU or to Russia, right? It's kind of its own little country doing its own little thing. And this is why it was great for money laundering, human trafficking, drug trafficking, and arms trafficking. Venezuela is that same thing in our hemisphere. And so this is a deep state hub center for
Oh,
all
no.
of the stuff that they did, right? So you go into the whole FTX scandal. I mean, this is
Oh,
directly
that's right.
connected to Venezuela,
Mm.
right? When you had the founder of DAI, the stablecoin DAI, forgetting his name, Mushigan, he's a Russian kid. He posted at 3:00 in the morning that his girlfriend was involved with an intelligence agency, the CIA and Mossad, and they're going to kill him and put child porn on his computer because he uncovered their money laundering scam of child sex trafficking in the Caribbean. And he's dead 2 hours later on the beach, ruled suicide, right?
Yep.
And then the next day is when the FTX scandal came out because a whistleblower anonymously started putting all of their stuff online where you had, what's his name, moving billions of dollars into Alameda Capital and then basically keeping the bank accounts at FTX, showing the balance of the cash. So instead of deducting the balance, he'd put an IOU in there, but never updated the actual balances. So there was no liquidity within FTX for people that cash out. Then he was taking that billions of dollars and he was sending it to shell companies in the United States of America that were donating to Act Blue and politicians.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, but this is how this network works. And Venezuela is the hub of the child and human trafficking that goes out of these areas, right? You know, we start to look at the money organization. You know, people are like, you know, remember Darien Gap during the whole Biden administration? It was Darien Gap. Okay. Do people understand where Darien Gap is? What Panama is? Panama is the crossroads between Central and South America. There's only one man-made connection that connects them. It's called the Bridge of America. And it goes from Venezuela into Panama. How do you get into the Darien Gap from South America? You got to cross over the Bridge of America. But where were they landing at? They weren't landing in the Darien Gap. They were landing in Venezuela. They were driving their passports. Margarita Island, 2011 congressional testimony. Hezbollah, Hamas, ISIS, ISIL. It's one of the largest outside of the Middle East corroborations of those terrorist organizations that support the Maduro regime. So much so that the Venezuelan military actually trained with the IRGC. Now, here's the interesting part about that. From 2020 to 2024, the majority of that population of those Middle Eastern people in those regions, the radical Islams, Hamas, Hezbollah, Houthis, they all left. Where did they go? Over the Bridge of America, through the Darien Gap, all the way up to the U.S. border and crossed inside of our country.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So the question is how did they get to Venezuela if there's this big ocean in between? Middle East and Chinese military age males. Someone had to fund that. Who was that? China.
Oh, wow.
So it's all like interconnected. Like there's a Chinese component to it. There's a Ukrainian component to it. This is the deep state. And I always, when I tell people about the globalists or the deep state,
right.
I say that it doesn't have a nationality. It works with all countries. It's part and parcel of all countries in the world. Some parts of this intelligence agency, some parts of this government, and what they're doing is they're utilizing their power and their authority to organize this whole apparatus that we know as the globalist regime or the deep state. And so, you know, they're like, people are like, you know, Israel or China. It's like, guys, hold on. And this is why I've been very clear out there many times that when I say Israel, I'm not talking about the Holy Land. I'm not talking about biblical Israel. I'm not talking about the amazing Jewish people in the world.
Yeah.
I'm talking about Netanyahu. You know, I'm talking about Netanyahu. I'm talking about the deep state here. Okay. I'm not talking about Xi Jinping. I'm talking about the CCP that's behind Xi Jinping.
That's right. That's right. Yep.
And I think that's a hard thing for a lot of people to understand is that how could that operate? And you're just talking about this, like decades-long mission of generals that came together after Kennedy and said, hey, we got to do something. Now, this is interesting because when I first put out the multi-domain battlefield, which was just it was supposed to be a 5-part Substack blog, but I ended up doing it in my shows. But I did the first part is I talked about what happened in 2007 and 2008, about how a group of generals, and by the way, when I was stationed in Washington, D.C., I met a 4-star admiral, retired, who worked under the Kennedy administration.
Oh, wow.
And this gentleman opened my eyes. And I met it through the groups that we were just talking about a little while ago before we came on. And he opened my eyes and he said, well, let me ask you this, is what would happen if military technology high-level classified technology was being sold off. What would you do if you were a general or an admiral? Right? And so we had that happening in 2007, 2008. He said, look at broken arrow types of situations, loss of nuclear weapons, these types of things. And he goes, ask yourself, does that make any sense knowing what you know and with your security clearance? And so we have the Brent Spears incident in 2008 where a B-2 bomber leaves Minot, North Dakota with a fully loaded ACM nuclear warhead. And it goes off a radar halfway through the country. That's how they knew there was something wrong. And then they finally get a hold of it, turn it around, land it. They're like, oh, did we get an armed nuclear warhead out here? Oh, how did this happen? Listen, I've done ammo onloads and offloads. I've worked with warheads before. Okay, that doesn't happen. That's an impossibility, which means that what were they really covering up? What was actually on that plane, and why were they covering it up? And so it came about with a lot more questions and research. And what you find out is that these generals began investigating all of this stuff, but they couldn't do it officially. They couldn't go out there and say, hey, we're gonna go to the DIA, we're gonna set up a task force to go and investigate this, because you don't know who's compromised.
That's right.
Because what you found through that, the Defense Logistics Agency, 10 generals were reprimanded, and some of them were even fired and forced into retirement. So you know there's compromise there. You know there's compromise in the Senate. Obama just came in. So what do? You have to produce a special access program, a spy program to go out there and spy on the deep state. Now, what's interesting is, do you remember when the first news started coming out about Edward Snowden? And they were saying that the NSA was spying on senators, congressmen, foreign heads of state, government contractors.
I mean, I remember about it. I just don't remember when.
Yeah. But do you remember on the Q boards how Q doesn't like Edward Snowden?
Yeah.
Well, that's why, because that NSA program was the special access program that those generals were running to uncover the deep state. And what happened was they were trying to find out who's stealing special access programs and military secrets and selling them off. Hillary. But what we find out is that they uncover this whole satanic cult, human trafficking, child sex trafficking, pedophilia rampantly. And what do? They have to get it out to the world. So they notify some journalists. First one, Andrew Breitbart, helps break Pizzagate. Right? What happens to him? 42 years old, dies of a heart attack. The next one, this is an interesting one. Michael Hastings. Remember Michael Hastings, Rolling Stone magazine?
Oh, yeah.
So Michael Hastings is, he does his expose on McChrystal and gets McChrystal fired. Then he starts investigating John Brennan at the CIA, who's running a secret technology program where CIA has the ability to hijack any car with a computer in it and crash it into anything and make it look like an accident when it was really an assassination. How does Michael Hastings die?
Just like that.
Exactly like that. Now, interesting enough about Michael Hastings, the question is where did he get wind of that operation? How did he know that John Brennan was a bad guy and then he was going to expose these projects? Well, remember when he worked with McChrystal? McChrystal's chief of staff was at the time Colonel Charles Flynn. Oh. I mean, this is the rabbit hole we're in. But what I want to assure people out there is that there is just like we have secret orders all over the world, and I was going to actually say this, is that we have secret societies out there. There is various different orders throughout the world that are secret. The evil of this world, the 13 family bloodlines, they have secret societies that they run and control. They groom children from very young ages. Young women are groomed from childhood all the way to adulthood, and they're groomed to basically be mated with high, powerful people and their handlers, right?
Yeah.
They've been doing this for centuries.
Yeah.
So the question is if you know a system works, why not use it for yourself? Why not go out there and, if we have the evil out there in the world buying off the media through Operation Mockingbird, why don't we go out there and groom our own media agents to go out there and fight for the good? Yeah. Right? Why don't we go out there and rise people up into positions of power for one day they can serve? And I think that a lot of what we are seeing right now is exactly that. And I look at people like, Candace Owens and, Megyn Kelly, Charlie Kirk, and all these people that these people have a connection in the backdrop to Donald Trump decades ago. Some of them, right? Yeah. Is that before they were anybody, there's this one moment where they meet Donald Trump. And it's kind of weird. And imagine this. You're John Trump, Donald Trump's uncle at MIT, right? And you're coming out of the Manhattan Project, and you have Nikola Tesla that passes away in 42. 43 Manhattan Projects is still going on. They call in John Trump from MIT, and he takes all Nikola Tesla's patents and technology and all this stuff. He takes it back to MIT, and he works in a classified lab, and he begins working on all this stuff, right? And what happens around that same time, 5 years later? 1947. You have Roswell, New Mexico. Who knows what it was that crashed there? But who are you going to call to look at this exotic high-level technology? You're going to call people like John Trump, right? And you're going to bring him in. And, if you're the military generals at this point in time, you know that, hey, this technology cannot slip into the hands of the evil in this world that we know is operating, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So what do? You got to create a secret order to preserve and protect it. Well, what better way to preserve and protect it than a legacy program? So many of the government agencies, high-level classified agencies, CIA, so forth, they use what's called a legacy program. So if your father was CIA, you are a shoo-in. All you have to do is just go sign up, and you are going to get in. It's a legacy program, right?
Right.
Makes you remember something that Tucker Carlson said. And just a heads up, we got to let LT go here in a few.
Okay. Well, but to finish it up here, is I want people to think about is John Trump had no kids. So who would he pass the legacy off of to protect this high-level technology and all this knowledge? And then that person who has massive resources.
You're talking about Uncle John?
Uncle John Trump.
Okay. Yeah. Just want to make sure.
And then he passes it off to Donald, and Donald has the resources and the network capabilities to begin putting a team together as far back as the 1970s and surrounding himself with people who love the Lord and who love this country and who are ready to save it, waiting for their moment and their time to shine.
That's right. Yeah.
That's where we are today.
I remember with Uncle John, I always go back to this when I talk with folks that love these type of subjects. Like, hey, you guys remember when President Trump got shot, and then next thing you know, he goes back. I think he went back to Butler, if I remember right, and he set up he goes, hey guys, I don't understand why they put this glass in front of me. Why didn't they put one on the left and the right? They could have shot me over here. They could have shot me. He goes, man, look at this glass. Look at this glass. And then he goes, you guys know I have an uncle named Uncle John? He just went straight from glass to Uncle John. I went, you got to be kidding me. And I always tell folks, like, hey, if he pauses in the middle of his speech and he starts talking about something that doesn't make sense at all, go look it up. And that's when I started down the rabbit hole of Project Looking Glass and Uncle John and what he was involved in. I'm like, my goodness, there's stuff we have no clue until we finally go research it ourselves and find out just why he wants us so bad to go look at that. That kind of leads to the next thing of being in control, right? Remember, he kept pointing to that chart and said, when I got shot, I looked at that chart. Remember, he kept looking at it, and finally we went and looked at it. Somebody was first. That might have been you, Josh, that said, hey guys, look at April of whatever. That's when all the immigrants started flooding our country again. It was the board that he was showing. And it was like, that made me go, well, when did they who had the power to then turn on the switch and say, we're going to start letting everybody back into our country again? That's where I was like, that's where I got confused of, that means that they had certain controls and fail safes, but then all of a sudden they didn't. And somehow they flipped the switch and they were able to open the borders again. And the evil ones were able to take control and flood our nation again. And he wanted us to know that. Like, he kept looking at that. That's where I'm like, more of, if we were fully in control, that would have never happened. We wouldn't have had a chart like that to show everybody, And so you brought up Megyn Kelly and all these others earlier too. It makes me wonder, when we're even told on the boards, there's certain people that were pointed out on the boards to watch out for. And so when I looked at them, I always wonder, now they're actually interviewing people like General Flynn, these folks that were actually on the board that we were told to look out for. General Flynn's actually going on their shows now, and it makes me wonder, did they finally flip the switch on these guys that were controlled opposition? I don't like to say their names. I like everybody to figure it out themselves. I just don't like to put people down. But I wonder too, Megyn Kelly was a big one for me, because she was the one that was forced to bring Alefantis on her show and claim that he's just some pizza guy who had some guy walk up and shoot a gun, and just one bullet happened to just magically hit his one computer that stored all of his files on it. And I was like, why did Megyn? I was so upset that she would bring Alefantis in, who's a pizza guy. Why would he be so important to bring on Fox News? So my theory has always been like, yeah, Trump probably met with her and said, I bet you're pretty ticked off, aren't you, that you were forced to do that? Because she probably knew, and she probably realized if I say anything or do anything, they have control over your life, over your family. Yep. So that's why I think we're told on the cue board that certain folks, politicians especially, they have to do certain things because their lives are at stake. Their family lives are at stake. So they had to keep making moves because they were told, I always picture it the 2:00 in the morning call, like we show in the movies, like, hey, if you do this, we're going to take your children out tomorrow at 2 p.m. You better pass this bill or else. So then again, that goes back to, how did they sit on a board and say, okay, guys, I got a plan. We're going to take out the deep state. It's going to take 50 or 60 years, but here we go. How in the world did they figure it out? And then they put it together on a board and said, we're going to put it together on a board, and we're going to use this, like you said, Josh, for a proxy, and we're going to communicate with we the people. And then when did they say they started the whole thing? 1999 to start, which was the time of JFK Jr.'s supposed accident, where we know he's not dead, but anyway, that's me. So anyway, that whole thing started then, and then we've been a part of a huge operation ever since.
I think they hint to us how they accomplished it, and I'm trying to remember what post it is. I'll have to look it up, but it says F2F versus the phone call. Why was it? And it was face to face versus phone calls. And the only way you could have went around these programs that were spying on to find out who's who, the good guys, to get them on your side, that means there was a lot of face-to-face conversations with things that just weren't documented formally in any capacity, because it would have got burned and they would have been killed for it. LT, I know you got to fly, and we kept you late, but we definitely appreciate it. I don't know if you had a chance to take a look at the chat. The audience has absolutely loved your presence on here.
I haven't been looking. I've been watching Josh get excited. I've just been mesmerized. My goodness, man.
Well,
you got me fired up, dude. I'm like ready to go. Let's start another podcast. Let's go.
just know that the
so much knowledge. I mean, it just, that's why I tune into you guys a lot. And I said, maybe catch up with what's going on. I missed some things today. Well, I jump on your show and I just learn an awful lot, and just, man, I appreciate your efforts, and what you guys are doing is fabulous. Absolutely amazing.
Well, that's the reason we call him the human encyclopedia.
Josh, they call me Joshopedia.
Joshopedia. I'm telling you, we need the shirts, Josh. LP, for those that are new to you, and I would imagine there's very few, but those that are new, where can they find you, and where do you do your work?
Yeah, andweknow.com. Very simple. That and we know comes from my favorite Bible verse, Romans 8:28. And we know that all things work together for good to those who love the Lord, to those who are called according to his purpose. Absolutely changed my life, that verse, and it helped me make it through 20 years in the Marine Corps when things were getting really difficult, because as you know, the Marine Corps can be very taxing on you, especially when you're married and you have kids. And man, it really pushes you to the limits. And I would often wonder, why am I here? And now looking back, obviously the journey that he took me on from the very beginning of my life, really, to where I am today, was all to get ready for this podcast. And I believe that, and it's in my book. If folks want to read about it, it's on my website. They can read. I finally put it on pen to paper, typed it all up. I was in the Marine Corps as an air support operations operator. In the Marines, what they do is they put fancy names on things to get you to join. But then when you get there, it's not what they actually label it as. I'm not saying the Marine Corps is bad. I'm just telling you guys, if you have kids that are going to join the Corps, please talk to Marines first before you talk to the recruiter, and make sure they get the actual job that they sign up for. Just a side note. But basically, I was a radio man. They sent me to Okinawa to work in 100-degree weather, 100% humidity, no air condition for 4 years. That was God's plan to keep me humble. And then I met my wife, and then I ended up moving into the field called public affairs. And that's where I learned how to talk to news media, how to type news stories. And then I ran a TV and radio station for 3 years. all of it without training. God sent me every 3 years to a different job. I had no idea what I was doing. I had to learn everything on the fly. And I was so upset at times. Why in the world did you send me to Thailand 2 days after a tsunami killed 250,000 people? And I've got 8 mainstream media folks that are on the line waiting for me to call them back so they can get a flight out to these places in Indonesia. This is not what I signed up for. Why are you doing this to me? And one step at a time, years later, we realize, okay, now I get it. I understand how the media works. I know how they flip things. I was part of that too. We had to make sure that everything was positive when we put news stories out for the military, because you don't want them knowing all the bad things. And they teach us how to master that actual art of doing it. And years later, here we are. Turned on the computer. I was running a business. Started talking on the laptop because my son told me I needed to, because he got tired of hearing me talk all the time. He said, you need to put this on YouTube, and the rest is history. And here we are talking to you guys.
Love it.
And I'm just as big a fan of you guys as you are would say of me. I'm just big because I started in 2018, and it was during a time where I started at the right time, I believe. And the second thing was what we brought up in Alpha is like, be careful the information that you give out. Don't go 100% all in on something unless you know for certain 100,000% almost that you know it is real, and always give people hope of the next day. We do not need to live in fear at all. What do we fear? What is there to be scared of? You know what? I know that when I take my last breath, the next breath, I'm going to be in eternity in heaven with my Heavenly Father. That's nothing to be scared of. Mm-hmm. We're all destined to take a final breath someday. We don't like to think about it, but it's coming. And so that's my hope for all of you guys, for all of your listeners, is that they would go to that website, get their information that they need from me there, and we know, and continue to stay tuned into you guys like I do. I come into your guys' show all the time, and you guys are absolutely amazing. I hope you continue to grow.
I appreciate it, brother.
Thank you, and God bless LT. And let's do this again, and maybe not wait so long.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I'd love it. Yeah, appreciate it. Maybe when I jump in again, I'll in the chat. Maybe you guys can say, "Hey, he's here," and then you just send me the link, and I'll jump in when I'm available. That'd be great.
Awesome.
Right on. I like the sound of that. All right, God bless. Have a good night. Get some rest, LT.
Okay. Yeah. Bye.
Figure out the good night.
All right, let me get us situated there. All right, folks, we're going to break to a commercial. When we come back, I got something interesting that I haven't showed Josh just yet. I don't think I have, because it was today when I figured it out, or maybe it was last night. I don't know. They blend, because like LT says, we never sleep and we never rest. So before we do that, let's get to our last commercial of the night. You guys will like this one. It's a very familiar voice that's on here. They say confidence starts with a smooth skin. And baby, Soft Disclosure Lotion delivers.
I swear by this stuff. Like, I kid you guys not. This is the first lotion I've ever had in my entire life that, like, I don't get ashy after I put it on any part of my body. Like, my hands are always dry, and my hands have not gotten ashy without, like, rinsing them through water and washing them with soap since I started putting Soft Disclosure on. Like, it is Black Man approved. I kid you not.
Black Man approved. You heard him. And let's be real. If it can handle his hands, it can handle anything.
Feet are like, they get so dry, like the heels of them, it'll just kind of like flake off. Like, but with Soft Disclosure, once you put it on, like it starts to absorb it.
Yeah, he went there. Don't worry, we won't show you his feet, but trust us, they're smoother too. Soft Disclosure Lotion is made with aloe, goat's milk, honey, and our exclusive oil blend that actually restores your skin barrier. Visit softdisclosure.com, use code BADLANDS, and get 15% off. At softdisclosure.com, promo code BADLANDS, get that 15% off. Again, shout out to Cam who let us embarrass him like that in order to sell this phenomenal lotion that exists. And if you have never used it, it absolutely is phenomenal. So Josh,
yes,
we've been talking about these. We got to pay attention to how, they're communists on the boards, but we also got to be careful that we don't go so far outside the bounds that, you know, you can make anything look like a connection if you work hard enough to do it. And we've got to be careful not to do that. But one thing that I found interesting, and I'm going to bring it up on the screen so you guys can see, is this right here. So Dan Bongino does his post and he says, "Thank you, FBI Portland." And he reposted FBI Portland, so it's a government account. And it says, "Here are our stats to date for combating criminal activity at the ICE facility. FBI Portland." And it says 1 arrest in the last 24 hours, destruction of federal property, 27 active and pending investigations, and 128 arrests since June 9th of 2025. 1:52 p.m. is my time, so this would have been 4:52 or 16:52 military time with the October 2nd date. But when I looked at this, this called out to me. And again, you guys know the way I operate. Follow those detective hunches. And what I saw here, Josh, was 127 and 128.
Mhm.
So I said, maybe it's something, maybe it's nothing. So I said, let's go take a look at post 127 and 128. Now remember, the mention of ICE, we're talking Bongino here. And I want you guys to think about the conversation we've had recently on Q After Hours and the stuff you've heard me and Josh talking about, because you're going to recognize something that I'm going to pull up on the screen right here. Post 127 is November 7th. The graphic is your key. Let's pause and say hello to the rogue intelligence agencies currently monitoring these threads. Was the money worth it? Titanic and Q. And then the following post, 128, which is November 9th, 2 days later, it is the map. Now, this one has the updated on it, the green part, but this is the one that me and Josh have been talking about at length that starts off with post 14, that has the image of Washington crossing the Delaware and talks about the skiff and talks about military intelligence. And then this is what this one reads, Josh. Trip added, C, coordinated effort to misdirect, guide to reading the crumbs necessary to continue with the I in brackets, attach graphic with the A in brackets is correct, link graphics are incorrect and false, graphic is necessary and vital, timestamps and order is critical, review graphic in full each day post news release, learn to distinguish between relevant and non-relevant news, disinformation is real, disinformation is necessary, example, U.S. military, National Guard, 1, false, SA, true. Why was this necessary? What questions were asked regarding SA prior to SA events? Why is this relevant? Think mirror, look there or here or there. Truth is behind you. What is a map? Why is a map useful? What is a legend? Why is a legend useful? What is the sequence? Why is this relevant? When does the map become a guide? What is a keystone? Everything stated is relevant. Everything. Future provides pass. Map provides picture. Picture provides 40,000 foot view versus 40,000 foot view is classified. Why is a map useful? Think direction, think full picture. Who controls the narrative? Why is it relevant? What is a spell? Who is asleep? Dissemination, attention on deck. There's an active war on your mind. Be prepared with the little p in brackets. Operations with the little r in brackets. Underway. Operations active with the a in brackets. Graphic is essential. Find the keystone. Moves and counter moves. They never thought she would lose. Snow White, Godfather 3, and Iron Eagle. Brother, this is everything that we've been talking about.
I got something bigger.
Oh, we're going there. All right. That's what she said.
Oh, she loved it. You're going to love it. So I love this because, and by the way, for anybody out there who didn't listen to our Sunday night show, you need to go to myself or Alpha's respective channels to get that. But it's the late night decodes with Q. You can find that. And we went over the maps and Flynn's videos with all of that stuff. And maybe we can go over some of that tonight. But I got to pull this up.
All right, let me pull this
off. So Donald Trump's been posting like a madman here on Truth Social, okay? It's been posting like a madman. At 12:02 a.m., Donald Trump posted this document. Alpha, why don't you go ahead and read that?
You're going to make it a lot bigger than that for me, bro. I don't have the young eyes that I used to.
Oh, okay.
So do us the favor, and if you can read it, because it is kind of small for me.
Okay, I can read it for everybody out there. And if you haven't seen this, this is a banger. Okay? What this says is U.S. Code, the provisions authorized the president when faced with such unlawful obstructions against the authority of the United States as existed in Alabama to call into federal service such of the militia of any state and to use such of the armed forces as he considers necessary, 10 U.S.C. 332, and to use the militia or the armed forces or both and other means. The militia of the United States includes the National Guard, meaning the Army National Guard, and the Air Force National Guard. The furtherance of the president's order, the Secretary of Defense immediately called into active duty service all of the units and members of the Army National Guard and Army National Guard of the state of Alabama to serve in the active military service of the United States of America for an indefinite period and until relieved by appropriate orders. This call was transmitted by the Secretary of the Army, acting by direction of and under delegation of authority from the Secretary of Defense. Copies of the Department of the Army message DA 340638, June 11, 1963, were furnished immediately to the governor of Alabama and to the commanding officers of the Army National Guard and the Air National Guard of the state of Alabama. It is apparent that the Alabama National Guard was properly called into federal service pursuant 10 U.S.C. 332-4 and in accordance with the procedure provided in those sections, since the call to federal service did not invoke the authority of 10 U.S.C. 3500 referred by Mr. Bowen, the procedure described by that section was not used. I trust that the foregoing information will be of assistance to you. Signed, Attorney General Robert Kennedy. So for anybody who doesn't know, this is when John F. Kennedy called in the Insurrection Act in the 1960s for Alabama when the military went on to the campus. Now, why is this interesting? Why is Donald Trump posting this tonight? So it's weird because he's posting a few different things. So he got 7 presidents have activated U.S. troops on American soil. The National Guard is activated to Chicago 18 times from 1877 to 2021. He posts this. And then he reposts something about Tylenol, which is kind of odd. He reposts a September 26th post about Tylenol. Kind of interesting. But then the U.S. Navy always stands for America. As Commander-in-Chief, I will always stand up for you. Now, by the way, that was 1102 post. So, or 1202 post. So 1202, Mockingbird HRC detained, not arrested yet. Where's Huma? Follow Huma. Nothing has to do with Russia yet. Why does POTUS surround himself with generals? What is military intelligence? Why go around the 3-letter agencies? What Supreme Court allows the use of military intelligence versus congressional assembled and approved agencies? Who has the ultimate authority over our branches of military without approval conditions unless 90 plus in wartime conditions? What is the military code? Where is AW being held? POTUS will not go on TV to address the nation. POTUS must isolate himself to prevent negative optics. So if you know this post, guys, this is one of those posts that talks about the authorization of military force once again, which we've laid out on the other different shows. Now, going back in here, we do have the Navy. U.S. Navy stands for America as Commander-in-Chief. I'll always stand for you. Now, why is that interesting? You know, to me, Alpha, that's interesting because Trump or Scavino just before that posted Trump eating popcorn. Now the timestamp, 10:32 p.m. Okay, for this post. When we go to it, 10:32. I'm going to go 10:32. I'll pull up the screen here in a second. What are the odds that 10:32 has something to do with what Donald Trump posted?
I'm waiting for it, man.
We are active.
Think Navy ships bigger than you know. We are active, and that's literally within the post that I brought up. And let me just, because this is, I'm telling you guys, if we should just record when me and Josh are having these conversations, because it's, you know, we laugh about it now. We're like, bro, but this is what happens when we keep bouncing this stuff back and forth. And why is this important? If you guys didn't kind of catch what we were saying earlier in the night with LT is, and I want to make sure that this message is understood. what me and Josh are starting to recognize is that X is being utilized as the platform to communicate with us now, not just from an occasional post, but that this may be where the new sphere of where we're going to see the boards.
Yes.
And the only way you could get anons and digital soldiers to accept this is you have to have consistency and validations. And what you're seeing right now is that. And the one thing I know, me and Josh have had this conversation in private as well, is I've always told Josh, and I might have hinted it publicly, I'm not sure, but I always said, when the boards come back, there's going to be something different about it. And I don't know what it is, but there's going to be something different because there has to be a filtration process because the boards have been, the movement, I'm sorry, has been infiltrated.
Mm-hmm.
And people have learned the rhythm, so to speak, of how this community has worked, which means the deep state knows how to deploy people to mimic that in order to create misdirection. And obviously you have other people that they're not deep state, they're not nefarious, but they have selfish intentions. And again, they're just going to mimic because they want to, they want to template something because it works to their benefit, whether it be grifting or popularity or all of the above. And so what I had told Josh is when the boards reactivate themselves, it's going to be in a way where it's going to take an honest effort to understand it, to make an assessment off your analysis. And this is the thing that we're seeing here. And I think some of the things that are happening off air are kind of guiding me and Josh to realize, okay, we are doing it right. And when we get a little bit off, we get, corrections or information to help us solve whatever riddles that we're looking
You
at.
get mean phone calls from some people.
I wouldn't use the word mean, maybe. But the good thing is they get me and Josh into a conversation and we figure out, oh, this is what we were this close. Okay. And then we go off and we figure this stuff out. And I want to spend time because you saw me just bring up that FBI thing. You saw all those posts correlate to it. The timestamp, and I'll bring that up here in just a second as well when I get back to you, Josh, also correlates to ICE. And this stuff's important because it's showing this isn't coincidence. This isn't by accident. They're showing us consistency with accuracy and validation. There's only one reason you would start establishing that. And that's because we're probably going to see some major communications coming here very soon. And I didn't want to interrupt, bro, but actually, I wanted people to get.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And actually, you were spot on 100% correct. Because if people go watch our Sunday show, everything that we did there, we broke down there, is exactly what Alpha was just saying now. They are so. Okay, I'll pull this up here. Everybody saw General Flynn's movie that he put out there. This is the boards, okay? Now, he took this on his book tour, but that's a map. Learn to read the map. What Flynn is doing with these videos, the first 3 that came out, he didn't post any the last 2 days. What he's doing is he is reviving the boards through his videos. What is he doing? He's building up trust and loyalty for you to see that, hey, I'm talking about the Q boards here. There's a timeline. Pay attention. And then we found in one of the boards, and I forget which one it was, we did it on a Sunday, that it literally goes to a timestamp that says, board is compromised, all messages will be here. As in, guys, choose back. It's posting. And Flynn's saying that this is my medium of how I'm going to communicate what's coming next, of what's happening. And he laid it out. If you guys watched any of his videos, he's got flickers. He's got flickers that go in there. He's got blackouts between page transitions and segments, and they all mean something. And it is crazy. I've been like, my mind is blowing going over all this. And that's why I said, I am not the smartest person you know General Flynn is. I assure you. And I would have told him that here tonight.
You're still in my top 5, brother.
That's
absolutely.
Cool. That's cool.
And I did get a message, and I'll communicate that with you after the show. So here's the other part. So let me bring this back on just to finish this one off. So again, 127, 128. there you got post 127, 128 going into the graphic is your key, what we just finished talking about. Going into, and again, this is the updated map. That's why you see this green that's over to the left of post 14 that's up here in this very little thing. I don't know if you can see my mouse. But if you go back to this, again, this is 152 my time. So this would have been 452 East Coast time. So 452 or 1652 for the military time. And when you go to post 1652, it's July 4th. ICE executes its mission through the enforcement of more than 400 federal statutes and focuses on smart immigration enforcement, preventing terrorism, and combating the illegal movement of people and trade. www.ice.gov. Abolish ICE. Hashtag goodbye Democrats. Again, folks, do you think it's a coincidence?
That is not a coincidence at all.
Not remotely.
They gave
close.
Dan Scavino control of the ICE page and the FBI.
I'll tell you, these and this is the thing that we all have to, as a group, work together. It's not just me and Josh or me and Josh and LT. The thing that needs to happen here in this revival is you guys have to, there's some of you that know what you're seeing here and you feel this move to like, I want to look this up and I want to go. That's what it's going to take. And as we go through this evolution of this new, the way the boards are going to look moving forward, we're going to start establishing, as we communicate with each other, which are the voices that we're seeing that are a part of this, because it's not going to be all accounts. It may be Scavino, it may be Bongino, or whoever's in charge of those accounts, but we have to start establishing what are the consistent patterns. How much accuracy is it with these things? How much validation is there with these things? Because that's what we're doing, is we're learning the language has evolved, and that's what we're going to put together here. And the faster we are able to accomplish that, the faster we're going to get ahead of what's coming and what's that going to look like. And I'm so freaking excited about this right now, bro, because I really feel like I'm a detective in the bureau again.
Well,
when we have these late night conversations.
Yeah, and I'll say it again. Listen, I said this on my show, and I'm going to say it again here. And I don't give a fuck if they're listening. I got put into a few different text groups on X, full of like hundreds of people, but all the big channels are on there, right? All the big Q guys are on there. Let me tell you that all they're doing out there is peddling their own stuff back and forth. And it's all nonsense, guys. I didn't see one decent decode. There's a few guys out there, and they typically have smaller audiences, 20, 30,000. Ripcord is one of them.
Oh,
do good. Yeah.
Man, Ripcord.
Ripcord's good.
Yeah.
But they do decent stuff, right? But a lot of these other guys, the big hundreds of thousands of followers, they're garbage. They are just regurgitating and stealing other people's shit. And so this is why I'm saying this right now. Q is back. Q is back. It is posting right now on very specific channels on X and True Social. If you want to get the guide defined how it works, General Flynn, Donald Trump. Okay? And if you want to understand how you can see how to decode it, they're teaching you. Go watch General Flynn's 3-minute and 20-second video. Start with a timestamp of 3 minutes and 20 seconds, and then start going through that video and looking for anomalies, looking for things like complete black transitions. Start timing those transitions out. When do they happen throughout the video? Start looking at the sequences of events. September 11th, JFK assassination, Charlie Kirk, and then Netanyahu, and then the Capitol building exploding. Wait, what? Did anybody notice that sequence ends with a black phase? Then it goes into America's revival, the Capitol building being reconstructed, having construction around it, and Trump signing executive orders, and then him surrounded by children. What does that mean? It takes you through you know what? Let's fucking pull it up.
Launch it, baby.
I think this will be good for people to see this, right? Because there's a lot of details here.
We're going to be coming back to that probably pretty frequently, because it's such an important video, and we're going to keep learning things that are in this.
So right there, you're coming out of the car after Flynn's talking, and you go to a complete black screen right at 26 seconds, okay? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through all the black screens. Now we're going to go to 1 minute and 26 seconds. 1 minute, 26 seconds. Okay. Now we're going to go to 2 minutes and 26 seconds. And what are the odds here? Netanyahu, right? So what it is doing is it's showing you a sequential timeline, right? So when we go into this video, there's tons of nuggets here. If you know the cue boards, red stringer, right? AIDS and cancer. That's not just an AI generated video right there or image right there. There is context there. AIDS. Why is AIDS on the backdrop? And they're talking about it with children, and cancer ribbons on the board. And there's arrows and pointing to a red folder in the guy's arm. This is comms, people. Okay? So that's Rittenhouse. But then you have a church, a Catholic church with LGBTQ. Then the battle lines are drawn right there with Trump and Obama. And this is the part that I really want to get into because this is where it gets interesting. I'm just gonna hit play right here at this sequence of events, and I'm gonna play it back and show you what's being said here.
This is warfare. This is warfare.
Okay, so first it starts with obviously the weaponization. They're back in the White House. Donald Trump's elected right here. Then this goes into this is warfare for what you did to me. Okay, the time has come. Then you get the Secretary of War, so military. DNI Gabbard, military intelligence, over 3-letter agencies. Marine Corps. Now that's interesting because those are all components of Q14, Q Post 14, where you have SCIF and then military intelligence. You have Washington crossing the Delaware, which Flynn hints towards at 14 seconds into his previous video before this one. Okay, but that's telling you that these are the three main components. It's time. Secretary of War is obviously doing the international component with the military, domestic component, and then military is going to keep the order, right? But then it tells a story. So it starts at Q14 because Q14 is the keystone, and the keystone starts off the story. This is John Solomon and Sarah Carter talking about what happened. March 2017, John Solomon, King Solomon, was approached by two MI guys, military intelligence guys, who handed him a folder of information and told him to begin researching. He immediately went inside and called Sarah Carter, and they broke FISA-gate. That was the beginning of it all, okay? And it goes from so 2017, March 2017, John Solomon and Sarah Carter. Then you get the follow the right rabbit, Q boards. The Q board's coming up. We got to take back the information. Why? Because disinformation is real, but it's also necessary. And then what happens? Native American civilizations or Native Americans would actually herd buffaloes off the cliff because it was the easiest way to kill them in mass numbers. So what is this? The Q boards herded them off the cliff. Never interfere with your enemy when they're in the process of destroying themselves. And then, what does it say? One by one. So what was one? James Comey. So who's the next arrest?
That'd be Brennan.
Brennan. Who's the next arrest? Clapper. So on and so forth. And who's the last one?
Well, that's BO right there.
Right. The Sovereign Alliance. Who helped take him down? This guy right here. So, by the way, I don't know if people saw this, but you remember how Bill Barr was always looked at BB? Bill Barr, BB. So, Bill Barr was called the B-2 bomber. On the Q boards, Bill Barr is called the B-2 bomber, right? He's the one that drops the booms. What if it was a special reference for Putin? That Putin was the one helping take down the deep state. He's the stealth bomber in the backdrop. What did Trump do to him? He gave him the bomber, right? And then boom, there's Flynn telling us again.
Oh, I'm tracking what you're saying there. Okay, I get that picture.
That Putin is the B-2 bomber. that's been delivering the goods
Stealth,
on the
and then
deep state.
stealth, and then the bomber.
Yep. And then Trump walks in front of the king, J6 feds, and then obviously September 11th, JFK assassination, Charlie Kirk, Netanyahu. And don't think for a reason that is just coincidence that Flynn did it that way. Where you have September 11th, JFK assassination, Charlie Kirk, Netanyahu. Now, what does Netanyahu want to do to our country? Wants to destroy it. Wants to destroy the Capitol. What was Netanyahu doing today? Oh, what if Iran has 8,000-kilometer missiles and they shoot it at Mar-a-Lago? Those are threats, people. But this thing is full of comms. But what happens? Nope. Construction. The Capitol building, right? We're safe. We're sound. Trump is safe on Air Force One. Military is in control. And local action at a distance. This is another reverberation of Q14 because when you go through the Q boards, one of the things you'll find is that key equals military intelligence and stone is people and POTUS. So it's that triangle. Military, people, and POTUS are this country. We are the defense of this country. That's the keystone. We are the keystone. So Q14, when you start to read it, that's what it's proclaiming. It is the keystone. And in the map that Alpha was talking about, it is the first part of that map that everything is built off of. So I highly recommend watching Flynn's videos and begin breaking them down. And you'll start seeing a lot of anomalies. Mark the timestamps of the anomalies. Because what he's doing is he's teaching you how to read the new comms. Q is back. I'll say it. It's Flynn. And he's teaching you how to read comms, and he's telling you that this is the method that it's going to go through. You can use the Q boards as a proxy board of communication, but we're about to transition. Pay attention.
And this is the moment, folks. Don't let the gatekeepers tell you, no, this is the way it has to be. And there is an evolution, and that means we have to learn. And that's part of what we're doing right now, because you guys are the digital soldiers. And understanding the way this works is again, it's how we'll move in mass. What I want to bring up now is I picked a couple posts from the days that are coming up, because now you guys, we're gonna have the Sunday show, Q After Hours. So that's gonna allow us to kind of break up how we do this content that we have. So when we get to Tuesday, we can focus on some things, but we can actually focus on some of the stuff that's coming up, and not only have to just focus on what's already occurred. So that's one of the benefits to having the second show on Sunday nights. Again, that's going to be at midnight Eastern. So I want to get your thoughts on these posts right here, brother. So this first one I'm going to bring up is post 4835. And this is from tomorrow,
Sure.
October 8th, or tomorrow for some people already that maybe already are on the East Coast. And 4835 says, "We need justice. We are ready. Let's go. Where we go one, we go all." And then it has a photo, in it together, hashtag, and then where we go one, we go all. And then it has the sequence of numbers. Now, the reason this one caught my attention is because James Comey was supposed to be indicted on Thursday, the 9th, but it got moved up a day. And the reason that the court said is because, well, there could be chaos based on a lot of stuff that's going on Thursday. So we're going to move it up a day, which is absolutely a whack-ass excuse, because all they do is up the numbers, the security details, and you would move lesser cases to other courtrooms if you needed to. But nonetheless, we moved up today. So now we have James Comey that is going to be stepping into his arraignment tomorrow on Wednesday. And right here, it starts off with, "We need justice." So with that, brother, you got any thoughts on this that you want to add?
James Comey's being arraigned tomorrow. Fuck. I love it. They better perp walk him. That's all I have to say. In this together, where we go when we go all. We need justice. We are ready. Let's go. They better perp walk him. That's all I say. They better Roger Stone him. Seriously, they better Roger Stone. Yeah, they better Roger Stone him.
We know he's making a deal. Now, the main question surrounding Comey is, why bring it a day early? What was going to happen by arraigning him on the 9th?
Well, it's interesting because that's the same day that Hillary Clinton is going to be testifying in front of Congress.
If they go through with that, because we're in a government shutdown.
If she shows up.
And that as well.
Well, they testified today. I mean, you had FBI director, people were testifying today. So I don't see why they wouldn't.
Okay,
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if they were gonna still have them do. So they are testifying. Okay, well that's a good thing. Then will she?
I don't think she's gonna show up. So you want to know what I think is gonna happen? She's not gonna show up, and they're gonna issue a subpoena, and then she's not gonna show up, and it's gonna be a criminal referral to the DOJ, and a subpoena will be issued for arrest.
And the arrest will happen on October the 30th.
October 28th, yeah.
Is it the 20th or the 30th?
28th.
Okay, the 28th. So there you go. Why does the 30th keep popping up in my head? I don't know. Maybe somebody
Day before Halloween.
Maybe someone seeded a thought there. Well, that in 24 has been popping up a lot on some of the stuff that I've been referencing. And so is it 24 days from October 1st? This goes into, the government shutdown. Is the government shutdown going to be 24 days? I don't know. But 24 is another thing that's been coming up a lot on my radar through my research. So, but here's the next one. So let me jump right into it. This comes to post 4834. This is also for tomorrow. And lo and behold, now that the Russia collusion is a proven lie, when do the trials for treason begin? It's so interesting that these all happen on Comey's arraignment. Now, let me ask you this, Josh. Is it so, hey, we need to move it to the 8th because we need these arraignments to line up with the drops? I mean, who knows? Who knows? But nonetheless,
I think that could be a good possibility, or something else is planned for Thursday, Friday. Maybe something else is happening.
So
I think there's going to be booms this week. So
let me address a comment in the chat because it's actually one I hear very often. This comment comes from Riverderchi and says, and if no rest, then what? When are you guys ready to pounce? And no, I'm not a Fed. So let me ask you this.
He's out there calling us Q-tards as well.
No,
so,
and I saw that. That's why I wanted to address it.
And by the way, for those douchebags out there in the chat, if you care to debate anybody, go to my X account, tag me in it, and give me your best. I will absolutely ruin you on this when you think that we're Q-tards or anything of that nature. I'm sorry, guys. It's mathematically impossible. If you want to deal with this in that context, I'll happily go out there and show you all of the angles to look at this in. And if you think that I'm wrong, you can prove it.
Well, here's the way that I'll address it. One, these guys that talk about, it's time to grab pitchforks and torches, right? Granted, a lot of these wars, and I get it, our patriotism was weaponized for us, but nonetheless, none of these people were enlisted. None of these people have went to try to defend this nation. Why? Because most of them are afraid. But here's the point that I'll make.
It wasn't Riverderchi. It was Rev. Sorry, Riverderchi. It wasn't you that said that. I appreciate it.
So, but the point I'm trying to make to whoever it is when you say, you're going to pounce. Well, who are you going to pounce on? That's the first question I always ask people. Tell me who the enemy is. Because if you come out and you say it's Pelosi and it's the Schumers and it's the Schiffs and it's these are the faces, these are the talking heads. You don't think that they got 30 people lined up behind each one to replace them? What you don't understand, and that is why when and Boone would say it too, as well as General Flynn and others, this is irregular warfare. You cannot win an information battlefield with a kinetic response in of itself. You can't. And why is that? Because our own ranks have been infiltrated. So a lot of the people that would lead these grassroots militias work for the deep state. They've been spending years developing rapport with you because they need a kinetic response. They need chaos because that's what allows them to deploy the tools that they want to actually establish tyranny. And that's why you have to understand this information warfare, this revival, as we said earlier tonight, this awakening of people. It's to make people start to dig, because once you go and people are awake to what's going on, then people can see through what the plans are. But I'm telling you right now, for all these people that say, it's time to rise up and try to push this kinetic reaction, that's a death sentence. That's what it comes down to. Should that
is falling right into their plan.
100%. Should that moment ever actually come, arrive, and God help us that it never does, nobody has to call for it. Nobody. It would be a natural, organic response because humanity, not just America, humanity would be like, there's nothing left. We have tried everything. But here's the formula to sparking a revolution, not a civil war, because that's us against us. What's being described in this hypothetical, it would be a revolution. If most people, if they think, well, we still haven't tried this or that, they're not going to partake. There's too much at risk. And what happens is you only have a very few that would be going up against tyranny in that, and you will lose. That's what it comes down to. You will lose. Warfare is not the same as it was in 1775, 1776. It's not. The only way you would get everybody to sign off on this is everybody would have to have already been at the conclusion of, we tried everything and there is no other option. That's the way a synthetic, or I'm sorry, not a synthetic, but an organic revolution would unfold. And like I said, Trump and team have mastermind protecting us from going to that scenario. Because here's the thing. That's not, to quote a movie, The Patriot, that's not a war that's going to be fought on foreign soil over the ocean. That's a war that's going to be in your backyard, that your kids are going to see, that your elderly parents are going to see. That's going to be our every enemy to the United States, embedded with people in the United States that have been manipulated. It is the worst case scenario that it would ever exist. And for all those that have always trash talked, those of us that are trying to avoid that, here's where I'll land this rant so we can get back on topic. You know which guys are going to be the ones that are in the front of those battles should they ever happen? Guys like myself and Josh. Not the guys in
I
here.
ain't gonna be there. No, I'm joking.
not the guys that are coming into the chats and are on social media saying cue cards and this. Those are the guys that are gonna still be hiding in their mom's basements.
That's right.
That's who they are.
Like Rev out there. And kudos for the chat audience who are just taking it to them. So good job, guys.
So to bring us back on this schedule, so we don't run you guys too late tonight. The next one I had right here was 4833, which is also from tomorrow. And on this particular one, nothing is random. Everything has meaning. And I will click on the graphic right here.
Wibbly Island.
And I knew you would remember it. It's referencing our date today. Then it drops back down to bigger than 25th. Amendment attempt to remove, which drops down to the 25th Amendment from a C-SPAN article, which brings us back up to bigger than the 25th Amendment attempt to remove. And of course, we got everything from October 7th to February 15th. And yes, and that's everything. Oh, on October the 8th, which is tomorrow on the bottom right graphic. So anything you want to share on that?
Do you remember when they said that was a helicopter?
I do. Sure as hell don't look.
Who knows? Maybe we'll see something tomorrow. Maybe. So, by the way, the rhetoric between Bibi, the hidden comms between Bibi and Trump, has been increasing. So Trump said, like a few days ago, we have the most powerful military in the weapon, the most advanced weapons, 20 years more advanced than anybody else. And then Bibi came out today and said the same thing. Oh, we have the most advanced offensive weapons. He said we have the most advanced offensive weapons in the world. Guys, and then the warning he said about Iran, I think there's going to be a potential false flag coming in. That's my thoughts. I know that's crazy, but I'm telling you.
It's coming. A major false flag is inevitable, the attempt. Now, whether they're able to be successful or to what level, I mean, that remains to be seen. But the deep state's never going to put their hands up and say, you got me, we give up. That part's out of the equation. The next one I have, I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's freaking long, but this is coming up for Thursday. This is 2381, October 9th. And the first one that I'm going to read here, and you'll recognize why. James Comey, director, fired. And then the next one that I'll scroll down, it's near the bottom. Use a stealth bomber. And then we get 5247. What was the session's Senate conference vote? And I find this interesting because we've seen the last couple votes regarding the shutdown And they've been 51-47, or I think 47-51 in some capacity. So we're here with one number off. And you just finished explaining to us, use a stealth bomber. So again, this is post 2381. And it starts off with the first name on that, James Comey. Anything you want to add to that one? If not, I'll fire off to the next one.
No, good.
Cool. Next one is for October the 11th. And these are all the ones coming up before next Tuesday's show, folks. This is 4848. Sometimes public awareness of certain events prevents occurrence. Sometimes public awareness of certain events forces accountability. You got any thoughts on that one?
Occurrences, yes. That's huge. Actually, you're gonna have to send that to me. So sometimes public awareness of certain events forces accountability. So but prevents occurrences. This goes back to I think what we were just talking about, but I want people to think about it like this: is remember last week there was the FBI thwarted a terrorist attack in New York City. Think about it in that context. That what if there was a direct threat to the United States of America right now, and they announced it prior to it happening? Actually, I just talked about that quite literally just a little while ago. I forgot what it was in the sense of reference. Ken Paxton, Texas. The Attorney General in Texas, Ken Paxton, said that we are going to infiltrate the left-wing radical groups in Texas because we want to save our country.
Really?
Public awareness of certain events prevents occurrences.
I did not see that one.
Right? So that means that people associated with those groups now get afraid. They see a deterrence. Oh, man, what if the feds are already in there? And now they stay away. Or those groups are already compromised and they're telling them they're fucked, right? Or maybe those groups were going to plan a terrorist event, and by Ken Paxton putting that out there, that deterred it.
I like it. Next post, 4849, also from October the 11th. And let me see, this one's too zoomed in. Let me bring it out. There was something in here that I couldn't highlight because it's a photo, but I wanted to find it. Here it goes, right here in the beginning, because we talked about this. Never retreat from the battlefield. Twitter, Facebook, etc. So again, we're looking at the I've always said the trenches of information warfare is social media. And then again, at the very end, game theory, information warfare. Welcome to the digital battlefield. Together we win Q. And it's a screenshot from post 4509, but it's 4849 for the October 11th date. I think that one pretty much speaks for itself, unless you want to add something to it.
Nope, you're good.
All right. And then we're coming here to the end of these. 4847. Do you remember when the media had wall-to-wall live in fear coverage regarding North Korea? Do you remember when Hawaii accidentally sounded the incoming missile alarm? What happened? North Korea no longer a nuclear threat. Mountain collapse. China seeking North Korea commitment to fire short, long-range ballistic missiles pre-election. But then the Q post itself, stage being set. And I think that's the part that is relevant right now.
Yep, 100%. Stage is being set.
Then we'll go into 4850, October 13th. What happens when they lose control of the digital battlefield? And that is exactly what we're seeing unfold right now. All right, and then the last one, 4855. Your ability to spread information across the digital battlefield and bypass their control is what they fear. Narrative failure. And why they are doing everything in their power to disrupt, false label, daily attacks, censorship, termination, government hearings, foundation to termination, censor, etc. Keep charging, midnight riders, information warfare, hunters become the hunted. And this cool music video that comes with it. So those are all the relevant posts as it stands between now and next Tuesday. You got anything for them that you want to add?
Anything that I want to add? No, I wanted to play an outro video though.
We can definitely. Oh, actually, you know what? I did have. Hold on.
We're gonna both play.
I lied. I had 2 more posts I wanted to bring up. They were out of order. But these go beyond next week. That's why I had them segmented off. This one's from October 30th. I knew October 30th had something to me. Let me zoom in, make it easier for everybody to read. This is post number 12.
Mm-hmm.
October 30th, 2017. Military intelligence, reference above, is the absolute biggest inside drop this board will ever receive. Now think about why Antifa plays right into the plan. Always ahead, guys, good guys are winning. And again, this kind of goes into the conversation me and you have had before on Antifa was what gave Trump what he needed to.
Now think about how Antifa plays right into the plan.
I mean, come on.
We infiltrated them back in 2017, 2018, guys. The only reason that Antifa is taking to the streets right now is because, well, it's like the Fedsurrection, right? But the good guys are guiding them there because this brings about the legal pathway to bring about the Insurrection Act to take down the bad guys. At least that's my theory.
I agree with you completely. And we saw it deployed. And then this is the actual last one. Post number 1, October 28th, 2017. And this is where I got the 30th from. Hillary Clinton will be arrested between 7:45 a.m., 8:30 a.m. Eastern on Monday the morning on October 30th, 2017. HRC extradition already in motion, effective yesterday with several countries. In case of cross-border run, passport approved to be flagged effective 10:30 at midnight 1. Expect massive riots organized in defiance and others fleeing the U.S. to occur. U.S. Militaries will conduct the operation while the National Guard is activated. Proof check, locate a National Guard member, and ask if activated for duty. 10:30 across most major cities. And you guys have heard our thoughts on the first couple of Q posts, but nonetheless, we're moving into this time frame, so I wanted to bring that
I think it could actually happen. I'm about 50-50 that's actually going to happen.
You know, there's a lot that supports it, man. There is, you know, and midnight 1 is an interesting one because we had all, well, I won't say all, we had a lot of military agencies that did post a minute prior to midnight at 11:59 p.m. Talking about how the appropriations are now terminated, and so you know these plus ones or minus ones are very noticeable. So, but with that, then, folks, do us a solid. The content. Oh, we got to read Rumble rants before we do the exit one.
And sorry, guys. This is my second. I've been like 5 hours of straight podcasting. I'm like, I started just fading away.
Your brain's just like, oh,
it is.
I'm so tired. All right, let me get these up on the screen and let me zoom in so we can see them all. And actually, let me go make sure we don't have any Badland boost either, because I got yelled at by someone who said, "Why didn't you read the Badlands boost?" But then I went and looked and I couldn't find one. So, for you that sent me that message, my apologies. I went to look for it and I couldn't find it. So if you want to take a screenshot of it and send it to me, I really would love to read it. And we do have, holy smokes, do we have a Badlands boost tonight. So we'll start with that one then. Rebar Heart 29, $100 Badlands boost, bro. Christ calls us to feed his sheep. He has also called us into action in this world. Thank you, gentlemen, for feeding us information. May God bless your work. Thank you for that, man. Holy smokes, that is super cool. Thank you for that, Badlands boost. And for those that don't know, if you don't want to do a Rumble rant or those other things, you can go to badlandsmedia.tv and then search Badlands boost. It's up and to the far right on those tabs, and you can do a boost there. And so with that, now I will bring the Rumble rants up on the screen, and we'll start from earlier tonight and make our way up. $50 from Breadmaker62, old-time OG follower right there. I hope you're feeling better, Bread. And we know that all things work to good for those who love the Lord and are called upon according to his promise. Romans 8:28. Love, love, love. AWK for and we know. So thank you for that, Bread. $2 from Susan DeBello. Patrick Byrne is calling out Rick Grenell over Venezuelan compromise. He states 2 European sources, and he's scrutinized since the inauguration. Insights? Is he pushed to expose or mole, just unearth, or? I got to think this one, and I got to go read it so I understand the full context.
I've read a little bit of it. My thoughts are something's going on. I don't think Rick Grenell's compromised, but I think Patrick Byrne is in on all of this. I think there's something going in here. And it might be to actually get out the people that he's claiming that are compromised out. So I don't know. I think that we'll see more on this in the next day or so.
Tickling the water, create the conversation. Jacob Law became a monthly supporter, so thank you for subscribing. $10 from Lopat67. A question for LT. Oh man, I should have saw this one while he was still on there. I will get this to him for you, Lopat67, so we can get this answered. A question for LT. What biblical passage or figure resounds for when you consider what we are experiencing in these times with DJT? So I am going to copy this, and I will get that to And We Know, and I will let you guys know what the answer to this question is on next Tuesday night. So again, my apologies for not seeing that, Lopat. $5 from I'm One Grateful. Don't forget, Homan will deputize any American to find missing kids. Check your state, county grants and contracts. Look under unaccompanied minors. Team up, investigate safely, document, and report. Absolutely. Local, all day, every day. $50 coming in from Wilson Socrates. Wilson
Great
Acres.
choice of Wilson Acres.
Wilson Acres. Great choice of special guests. Great show, guys. Hi, LT. Love, and we know. Thank you for that. $20 coming in from Heavy Bag. Question: does the board say anything about whether Michelle is a man? And I'm kind of joking. Love your show.
I don't think so, but that'd be funny if it did.
Yeah, nothing that comes to mind, but I wouldn't bet the house on it. $20 from, I'm guessing, Colorado Guy 85. I joined Rumble after COVID, and the first 3 guys I started following is on this podcast. How badass is this? Thank you for your efforts that you put in. Super cool. Very cool. Thank you for that. Holy smokes. $100 coming in from JBrum 20. Love all 3 of you. Thank you for never giving up.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, we can't give up. You know, we there's a bunch of kids that are dependent on us to make sure we not just not give up, but to make sure we win. Again, from I'm One Grateful. Haiti is under gang control, very, very close to U.S. via underwater ops. Haiti accepts drug shipments, weapons, possibly child trafficking. You're right on that, but also understand a lot of the players we have been told are bad players in Haiti, that, they're rising up. They're actually not who our intelligence agencies told us, and they're actually trying barbecue being one of them.
Yep. Yeah. He's just trying to save his country, man.
He's trying to save his country, and they're feeding us a lot. We actually did an Operation Gladio show talking about that. Go look for the Haiti one, you guys, and there's an in-depth conversation with me and the Colonel, especially bringing up barbecue and his mom, etc. Blue Eyes 88. Never has it been attempted the use of the general public to counter the narrative, the propaganda. Thank God for Trump and the Q team. Abso-freaking-lutely. $20 from Andy Pearson. Wow, what a great show. In Mexico with my friends, they went to a show. I bowed out and went back to the room to watch Josh's show, and then this one. Right on.
Awesome.
Some loyalty right there. I love that.
That is.
$2 coming in from, again, I'm One Grateful. Hope you're keeping a diary or a journal about these times. Your grandkids or time capsule finders will love your perspective. So interesting enough on that, I have all these notebooks and notepads that I've been keeping, from my show notes to the very beginning when I had a guest on, and how should I go about it. And I've kept all that. And I actually, now I'm just like, it's one of those things where I'm always just going to do it for whoever, kids, grandkids, who knows. But I thought it'd be pretty cool to keep all that stuff. $10 coming in from Sting Tammy. Another dynamite show. Absolutely. $20 from a Junior's Junior. Next time, make sure LT prayers with us. God bless all of us. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. That would have been freaking cool. Absolutely. That would have been cool. Well, holy smokes. $100 from EW Cruz. I feel like it should say something and I'm missing it. It appears Islam openly intends to take over America, the world, a fact not hidden. What do y'all believe the White House intends to do about such, and specifically, how much will such be addressed? I think it will be addressed significantly. If you're paying attention, some voices have been bringing that up. There's some extremists with Islam that are in. I mean, you've seen it in Texas, you're seeing it in Dearborn, Michigan, and other places around the world. It is being addressed, and that's why, again, when Josh brings up this conversation of you got a crowd of people that just want to isolate things to the Jews, right, and not make the distinguishment there and educate people on what's really being said. You'll see they'll never mention the CCP. They'll never mention the military industrial complex. They'll never mention the Islamic extremism that's in this country. But just understand we are being attacked on all flanks. Yeah. And if you're paying attention.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just saying.
Go ahead. We had to have one time where we did that. No, go ahead. Go ahead and finish. I'll jump in.
If you're following General Flynn's X profile, he's addressed it quite a few times.
And by the way, the number one way to stop radical Islam is to stop the countries and the factions that are funding it. And there's another one that we're talking about. We're saving them for last. That is the primary force behind it.
100%. This one's funny. a dollar from Sleep State. No $7,000 rants here. You want to know what that means? You got to go watch Only Lands on Badlands from last Friday, and that will make sense. Holy smokes! Again, $100 from EWK
EW Cruise.
EW Cruise. Do me a favor. If there's a way that I'm supposed to be pronouncing that, drop that in the comments. So when I go through and look at it, I hate when I mispronounce someone's name or someone put work into it and I can't see it. But the $100 Rumble Rant reads, I lived in China for 6 years and I saw lots of corruption and nationalism intended to take out America. What are the White Hats doing about Chinese infiltration, spying, computer chips with backdoors, etc.? One, our FBI and DOJ are absolutely investigating that in real time. We saw the Sim Center that came down. And I will say, I don't know how much I can say this, but I would say I would definitely pay attention to the next book that's going to be coming out from General Flynn and rest in peace, Boone Cutler. And I think you're going to get a lot of answers to that question specifically in that book.
Yeah, and another part of that, buddy, about the China part is mainly the best way to keep China at bay is economically. And Donald Trump has done this geniusly with tariffs and how he's basically sanctioned China without sanctioning China. Now, how do you stop the infiltration? I think that's going to be what's going to be dealt with next. At least that's my thoughts.
I agree. He's perfected the economic warfare. And he's not the one that came up with it, folks. Go study our presidents that set the precedents for that and when they did it. And you'll be like, oh, that makes sense. $5 from S-Hole. We stay Semper Fi. They stand in the back and cry. Kinetic war is hell. It scars your soul. Amen to that one, S-Hole. Amen. $2 coming in from Gale Time. Delta Post 2377, dated October 9th, 2018. Booms. And page link goes to sarahcarter.com. Page says, we'll be back. Very interesting. $17 coming in from Desert Jewel 17. Great show, guys. Any thoughts on Scavino's post on X? Short video in the Oval Office that begins and ends with the camera on the face of the grandfather clock. It's time. I've had a couple people send me that message. I glanced at it, but I haven't dug in.
I broke it down on my X page and my show yesterday. It starts with the clock. It goes around. It kind of pauses right at Ronald Reagan and then comes back. The timestamp goes to a Q post that is basically saying that it's all beginning. But if you click on the video link, it goes to a Ronald Reagan video, Peace Through Strength.
And we talked about that. That's been coming up. The Peace Through Strength one's been coming up a lot lately.
Yep. That's getting us ready for military action.
100%. Listen, those recruitment posters that they're putting out for ICE, that's World War II vibes right there. $5 coming in from Sherry Amy. If everyone would hit the like button, it would be great. Leaderboard draws in people. I absolutely agree with that. Smash that thumb up. Leave a comment. Be active in the chat. Make some friends, folks. $50 coming in from American Patriot 3531. Love you guys. Love Navy birthday celebration on Sunday. Hey Alpha, our 250th birthday will top Josh's Navy. LOL, just kidding. Don't put the just kidding. It will. It absolutely will top the Navy's birthday. We got them on that, American. You guys are my news and trying to wake up loved ones and friends, and it's hard. Love you guys.
Love you too, man.
Love you
Appreciate
too. Marine Corps birthday is gonna be freaking legendary this year. $100 coming in from EW Cruz. Admire and respect you both. Appreciate your brilliant insights, reporting to help keep us informed on task and keep up morale. Thank you for everything. P.S. Thoughts regarding XRP, XLM, Theta. God bless. I own XRP and I own XLM. Theta, I'm not familiar with. So
I'm familiar with all of them. Good short-term holds. Theta, I wouldn't be holding too much. This isn't financial advice, but Theta, you got a few years before Theta even probably has the potential to be good. XRP, I think if I had XLM, I'd throw it all in the XRP. How about that? And if I had XRP, I'm holding for 3 years and then I'm out. I would hit that price max about $15 to $16, and that's probably where I would be getting out. Very highly improbable that it goes above those levels, at least in the next 3 to 5 years. XRP is an antiquated cryptocurrency. 2014 is when it was developed. It really hasn't had very many upgrades. It's not going to replace the SWIFT system. It's not going to be the integrated into Enbridge. You got to remember that whole system's going away. If you're interested in those types of conversations, I do those on my show, my Daily Dose show. I talk about the financial and economic stuff as well. So,
and the only thing I would add is, and remember Bitcoin, because if I don't say that, G Money is going to
just buy Bitcoin. It's one thing I do agree with G Money on.
He will put his boot up my ass until it spit out his laces. The other thing that I'll say when it comes to crypto is I'm all about diamond hands, baby. I'm so diamond hands that I wrote down my seed phrase and then I burned it. And I'm waiting till they come up with the technology that'll help me remember what I forgot. That's the level of diamond hands I have. Do not follow me in doing that, folks. I'm using humor there, maybe. And that is, I believe, that is our last Rumble rant. So I will pull that off the screen. Let me see if we got any super chats. No super chats. Let me reload the Badlands boost page. And nothing there. So we covered everybody. We didn't forget anybody. So with that, you guys, remember Sunday night, midnight Eastern, Q After Hours, episode 1 with our third co-host. You guys are going to love that show. Thank you guys. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. And Josh, when you're ready, hit that video, brother.
So, okay. All right, guys. Much love, respect. God bless.
Awkward pause.
Stand strong. The day is here. The battle's near. Put on the armor. Yeah. Belt the truth around my waist. Feet of peace, I take my place. Breastplate shining righteousness. Shield of faith, no fear, no death. Helmet of salvation, crown. The word of spirit cuts them down. Darkness trembles, shadows fall. I'm clothed in fire, I hear the call. Armor of God, I will not yield. Stand in the light, my sword, my shield. Against the night, against the light. The armor of God will never die. Every scheme and every snare broken by the power of prayer. Though the
Laser talk required. Need.